Citi Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Houston Astros. Mets baseball is presented in HD by IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. I'm Gary Cohen. Keith Hernandez and Ron Darling join us in just a moment as the Mets return home to open a three-game series against the Houston Astros. The Mets come in at 5-11 on the year, looking to improve things in any way they can. They look forward to getting Jason Bay back into the lineup for the first time on Thursday night. But in the meantime, the ongoing saga of the Mets' second base question takes a turn. The Mets have designated Brad Emas for assignment, and they've brought Justin Turner up from Buffalo. Turner, who was part of the mix during spring training this year, was optioned out to Buffalo to start the season. He's now the latest piece in that second base mix.
Well, Emas had his chance, and really a tough situation for Brad, and he did not hit, and they made a move, and they brought up Justin Turner. Why? Looking for offense. Bates coming back Thursday. Turner was hitting over exactly at 300 in Buffalo, looking for another bat in the lineup. Take advantage of this homestand when you got two kind of lowly teams, the Astros and the Arizona Diamondbacks, coming in.
Now, when the Mets snapped their 7-game losing streak on Sunday in Atlanta, Terry Collins made the move of putting Josh Thole up in the 2-hole, and that paid off. He had a couple of RBI hits.
Well, I think primarily what's happening there is just that Angel Pagan is struggling so much at the plate right now, and you miss Bay in the lineup in that where Pagan is hitting right now. I think Pagan is more comfortable in the 2-hole. Totally, I don't like the speed at the top. He doesn't have the speed, but he does handle the bat. He's a good hit-and-run guy. So I think when Bay's back, Pagan's in the 2-hole, Tolley's back hitting probably 7th.
Well, for whatever problems the Mets have had offensively, the pitching has been an even bigger problem, next to last in the National League in staff ERA. And need for just about everybody on that staff to get going, starting with tonight's starter, John Neese.
Well, you're just talking about Emas. Certainly not all Emas' fault. Really, at a 5-11 start, the Mets wanted to get off to such a better start. Everybody's got to elevate their play, and that includes Jonathan Neese. Won 9 ball games last year. Probably should have won 14 or 15 games, but he has not been pitching the way he last year. He's not been as aggressive, really hurt by the home run ball, and he, like everyone else, has to elevate his game. He's going to have to elevate it against Houston's Wandy Rodriguez today, who in 2009 won 14 games, got a big contract. He's a guy that throws strikes with a good curveball, and when he's on, he's very tough to hit.
So these two lefties trying to get their seasons off to a little better second round, with Neese facing Rodriguez. And as we go along tonight, we'll look back at Houston and the Mets circa 1986. All coming up on SNY. IOTV, get the best in HD free with IOTV. Buy a Sulla Express where you can plug in and work or sit back and relax. Book now at Amtrak.com. Buy your Tri-State Ford dealers. By Atlantic City Food and Wine Festival, July 28th through the 31st. Visit acfoodandwine.com for details. And by Kia Motors. Complete your Citi Field experience with the McFadden's Mets Game Day Ticket Package. Includes a 1-hour happy hour, a complimentary appetizer, and a post-game drink coupon. Get to Mets.com for your tickets now. Take a look at the Kia around the majors. Tim Lincecum took a no-hitter into the 7th, went 7, struck out 10, and beat the red-hot Rockies 8-1 last night. The Indians now 12-4 on the season. Grady Sizemore 5 for 9 in his first 2 games since coming back from knee surgery. And the Phillies went down last night in 12 innings. Ryan Braun drove in 2, including the game-winning sacrifice fly in the 12th. Mets and Astros getting ready for their first meeting of the season. Get yourself a snack and head on back. First pitch coming up from Citi Field. Today to see every Mets game live or on demand on your computer and your favorite devices. Visit Mets.com to order and get more details. MLB.tv, baseball everywhere. And there is Justin Turner, just in from Buffalo, called up today to share the second base position with Daniel Murphy, and he'll start tonight against the left-hander. There's your Ford starting lineup for the Houston Astros, who are 5-11 on the year. Hunter Pence has been red hot, 10 RBIs in his last 10 games. But the rest of that Houston lineup has really been struggling through the early season, as they take on John Neese tonight.
Well, Jonathan Neese, when he started in Florida, his first start was outstanding. 2 different starts since then. 11-14 on his career. 1.29 ERA and 2 starts against Houston in his career.
And the Lexus Metropolitan defense. You can see Turner, his 4th career start at second base. Hairston getting a start out in left field, and everybody pretty much straight up around the regulars are in there, totally behind the plate.
Brad Mills, the second-year skipper of the Astros, who in typical fashion last year got off to a slow start and got better as the year went along, and they're off to a slow start again this year. What is it about this franchise?
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, unbelievable. The year that they won, I think 1998, won 102 games. They started that year 15-30.
Michael Bourne will lead things off, and maybe the most interesting matchup of the night for John Neese is not with Bourne at the plate. It's if Bourne gets on first base. Michael Bourne, the leading base stealer in the National League each of the last 2 years, takes the first pitch for ball one. And Neese, as you probably know, has now gone 37 straight starts without giving up a stolen base. And that fastball just misses. It's 2-0. So Kerwin Danley, the home plate umpire, has not been kind to Neese. 2 pitches into the game. Angel Sanchez on deck. And that one finds the plate, 2-1.
Jonathan throwing very hard early, 92 miles an hour. He's more of a 88, 89 guy in the first inning.
Got off to a good start against Colorado in his last outing as Bourne slaps one into shallow left center, and it falls for a hit. And so Bourne is aboard to open the game. And we'll see immediately whether the shutdown holding of runners by John Neese will be able to overcome the base stealing abilities of Michael Bourne. Angel Sanchez took over as the Astros shortstop last summer after coming in a trade from Boston. Got off to a really good start this year. Has cooled off lately, hitting a .302. Bourne with 7 steals this year. 61 in 09, 52 more last year.
You say to yourself, why does Jonathan have that stat that you talked about, 37 straight starts? Well, he's extremely quick to the plate. Does not have a great move to first.
And Neese working very quickly early in this game, and the Astros trying to slow him down a little bit.
You never want to let a pitcher, get into a rhythm.
Sanchez lays down the bunt, and Neese makes the play for the first out of the game. So Brad Mills playing for 1 run in the first inning. Sometimes you'll do that if the weather is iffy. However, looking at the latest forecast, it is not supposed to rain until after at least 10 o'clock tonight.
I think it always works against you to try to manage to the weather. They've been very good with runners in scoring position. They're trying to do that with their best player.
So here's Hunter Pence, 25 home runs each of the last 3 years, hitting a .297, .429 with runners in scoring position so far this year. And Pence takes the curveball low and inside for ball one.
And the next 2 hitters in this lineup are the 2 that Jonathan Neese is going to have to pitch carefully to. Both hitting .500 on the season. Carlos Lee right there in the on-deck circle, and Hunter Pence, both 5 for 10 against lefties.
93 on the gun from Neese, and it's 2-0. So he's had the extra day since his Wednesday start against Colorado and has come out strong.
Strong, but his control a bit off.
And Pence watches low, and it's 3-0.
Pence is one of those guys that is a good player, but is not pretty doing it. He's got awkward runner, awkward swing, but he's a fine player.
And Neese walks him on 4 pitches, and now the Astros have 2 men on. Look at the inside pitch on John Neese, brought to you by the Xerox business of baseball. Xerox, ready for real business.
Well, his last 2 starts, he pitched pretty well, but he could not keep the ball in the ballpark. A couple of key home runs. Less power pitching for Neese, although he's come out power pitching. He needs to throw that changeup more. And mentally, a little stronger. I think Jonathan was outstanding last season, ran out of gas, but he's got to elevate his game. He's counted on to be the second or third starter.
So here's Carlos Lee, now 34 years old and off to a difficult start this year, hitting .234, just 1 home run. Lee has hit 20 or more home runs 11 straight years. The only other player in baseball to do that is Alex Rodriguez. Bourne takes off. Toley's throw to third, not in time, and the stolen baseless streak for John Neese has come to an end. After 37 straight starts, Bourne swipes third base.
8th stolen base of the year, and ironically, it comes to an end of someone stealing third base.
You know what's interesting about that play? Sometimes when a guy cannot be stolen on third base is much easier. But Justin Turner really not holding the runner Bourne very close there. And he took advantage of that.
And a big guy for Tolley to try to get around to throw the ball to third base. So runners at the corners. Now it's 2-1 to Lee. So Bourne is at third and Pence at first with one out as the Astros try and strike quickly against Nice. And the breaking ball pulled foul. 2-2.
Interesting. Chunky 2-1. Pitch from Nice is a curveball, and Carlos Lee swinging at it. That's usually a pitch you usually take 2-1, but maybe looking for that pitch.
See that note at the bottom. Carlos Lee tied for the National League lead at triples. Might not stand all year. Slap foul.
He made a bet right now that he's going to finish with 2 triples.
Chris Johnson waits on deck, third baseman for the Astros.
Carlos Lee over the years a tough strikeout for a power hitter.
He's looking for the ground ball to try and turn 2. Takes a look in on Pence, who has 1 steal this year.
Well, there was talk last year of moving Carlos Lee to first base. He played a little first base last year. He's slowing down a lot. It's a big guy.
Line to center field on a fall for a base hit, and the Astros take the early lead. Bourne comes in to score, and it's 1-0 Houston. 10th run batted into the air for Carlos Lee.
Well, it's a hanger right here. It's out over the plate and down, but it's too much in the middle, Ron. Too much plate.
You know, it's interesting. He swung at that 2-1 curveball. The 2 pitches he was on in that at bat were the curveball from Nice.
So Bourne comes in to score after picking up the first stolen base against Nice since May the 8th of 2009 when Niger Morgan did it. Here's Chris Johnson with 1 out and 2 on it. He takes a fastball for a strike. Johnson in half a season last year with Houston hit .308, but he's hitting 100 points lower to start this year. Remember when we got to Houston last year and Johnson was just tearing it up, and then the Mets stifled him during a 4-game series. 1-1 to Johnson.
Well, he's got a great bat, big strong kid, good fielder at third base, but you know that second year for these hitters is always the most difficult.
Kid who does not walk a whole lot, doesn't have a ton of power. Hits one down to first. Ike on the backhand. He's going to go to first with it as Nice covers for the second out. And the runners move to second and third. So Johnson grounds out for the second out. And now the well-traveled Bill Hall. Played last year in Boston. Didn't have a very good year. Signed as a free agent by the Astros. And he's off to a slow start with Houston. He had that one big year in Milwaukee at 30 home runs, and he's kind of been chasing that ever since.
These are the mini battles that you have to win as a starting pitcher. Mets have had a propensity giving up 2-out runs. That has been a big problem early on.
First pitch curveball, and Hall chases it. 0-1.
This tells you a lot about Bill Hall right there. He just first ball, fastball hitting, not any pitch recognition there. I mean, we all get fooled on curveballs in the dirt. But
Mercedes-Benz Ultramo brought to you by your Tri-State dealers on the web at searchmercedes.com. 0-1 from Nice, and another curve, and he fouls it off at the plate. And so he's quickly ahead 0-2.
I guess the book on Mr. Hall is throwing a little wrinkle and he has trouble.
Although he had a little better swing at that one than the first one. I'd like to see Jonathan Nice really come inside to these right-handers, get them off the plate. He has not done that yet, albeit the first inning.
So those numbers from that big 2006 for Hall in Milwaukee, 35 home runs, but that's a long time ago now. So now Nice ahead 0-2. And another curveball, and Hall gets a piece of this one and fouls it off. So 3 straight hooks from Nice. Gary Collins finally got to shake some hands and pat some rears on Sunday, and he was most emphatic.
Boy, he managed that game to win desperately.
As he needed to. And Mets were in desperate straits heading into Sunday. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. 4 straight breaking balls from Neese, and he gets Bill Hall to end the inning and limit the Astros to a single run. Rodriguez in the bottom of the first. Reyes, the brightest offensive piece for the Mets so far this year. And he'll have Josh Thole hitting behind him again tonight. Scott Harrison gets a start against the left-hander. Justin Turner just up and just into the lineup. Call strike to Reyes, 1-1. .32-year-old Wandy Rodriguez making his 4th start of the year. And throughout his career, he's been far more effective at Minute Maid Park than he has been on the road.
But he's a little gamer, throws fastball change, good curveball, 62 and 66 in his career.
And the curveball dribbled foul.
He had that big year in 2009 where he went 14-12. They rewarded him with a contract that takes him through 2013. Probably the #2 starter, I guess, on this team behind Brett Myers.
3 years, $34 million, the new contract for Wandy Rodriguez.
And Reyes, the only Met hitting over 300 in the starting lineup.
23 hits, 7th in the National League in hits. And 2 more hits on Sunday. Also drew a walk, scored a couple of runs. And with Reyes on base at starts of innings, this team has trouble losing. Good curveball from Rodriguez, misses 2-2.
You make the good point, Gary, that Wandy has always pitched the Mets tough at Minute Maid Park in Houston, but the Mets have always roughed him up here in New York.
2 career starts in New York, 1 at Shea in 07, 1 here in 09. And he lost them both as Reyes pops one up in foul ground. Should be playable for Brett Wallace. And that's the first out of the inning.
Take a look at this Coors Light Astro defense. You can see right there, this is a team that's challenged in a lot of areas. That's way too many errors for a team that's played 16 games. Geez, that's just way too many.
Well, you got that infield defense. Wallace, who is an offensive player playing first base. Hall is a utility guy playing second. Sanchez, who has no range and very little arm, playing short. It's tough to win that way.
Hall, the ultimate utility players, played every position except catcher and first base.
In fact, Hall on Sunday played his 1,000th career game. He hasn't played more than 271 at any given position. So here's Thole coming off his good day Sunday in the 2-hole, and he chases a 2-0 fastball. 2-1 to Josh, who's hitting a 277.
Well, a little tardy here in this fastball away. Josh, surprisingly, in 47 at bats, has 12 strikeouts. For a contact hitter, that's too many strikeouts.
But significantly in the lineup tonight against the left-hander, Terry Collins has mostly been using Mike Nickius when the lefty faces the Mets, and fully plans to use Ronnie Polino against all lefties once Polino is activated. Should be about a week from now.
Wow, mouthpiece, huh? It's a contact sport.
Little tapper and Rodriguez off the mound. And 1-3 put out on Tolley for the second out. A little rain has started to fall.
New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by RPL Equipment. From Midtown to Montauk, for all your contracting needs, visit them online at rplequipment.com. So 2 out and nobody on. David Wright comes up. David went 0 for Atlanta. A rough series for him at the plate. Now down to 254 on the year. 19 strikeouts and 63 at bats, second in the league.
And he's starting to go back into that old habit. I watched the games in Atlanta, Gare, and starting to fall back on his back foot and lift that shoulder and swinging up again.
In the air to right field, chasing Hunter Pence back. Lots of room out there, and Pence on the warning track runs it down. Another long fly ball to right center for David Wright. That results in an out. Mets go down 1-2-3, 1-0 Houston after 1. Tomorrow night at 7:10 p.m. Tickets start at $10. Visit Mets.com or call 718-507-TIXX for your tickets now. R.A. Dickey will be on the mound for the Mets tomorrow night. John Neese working to Brett Wallace leading off in the second, and a towering fly ball to center field. Angel Pagan with all sorts of time to stand under it. 1 out. So 1 pitch and 1 away in the second inning. Can't hit a ball much higher than that.
That's the greatest feeling for a pitcher. 1 pitch, 1 out.
Here's J.R. Tolles, the catcher. The Astros were to have had their young prospect Jason Castro as their #1 catcher this year, but Castro had major knee surgery in the spring and will be out for probably for the season. They say he could come back in September. So J.R. Tolles and Humberto Quintero are sharing the catching for Houston. Tolles just missed a few days with a sprained ankle. Returning tonight, Wandy Rodriguez waiting on deck. A little light rain falling here at Citi Field. And the Mets were bound and determined tonight, no matter what the weather, to play through, because this is the Astros' only trip, and the last thing that this team would ever want is yet another doubleheader. 2 in the last week, quite sufficient, thank you.
Well, particularly with the getaway game, the victory in Atlanta, when Terry Collins went with 2 of the starters in relief.
After having to use a reliever as a starter on Saturday.
Yes, everything was in reverse. Everything was helter-skelter, and it got a victory.
Well, with the off day yesterday, that gets everybody kind of back in line again. 3-2 now to Tolles, as he thought he had ball 4.
Interesting. Nice is throwing very little cutters. Almost all 4-seam fastballs so far.
And what does that tell you?
But it tells me that he's trying to establish that before he moves to the cutter.
And he just misses outside, and Tolles is aboard with a 1-out walk. Second given up by Nice.
I think what they're trying to do, Gary, is make him more aggressive. But the thing he's doing right now, see that 4-seamer? He's catching all 4 of those seams. Just right now early, overthrowing a little and pulling that front shoulder out. That's why he's barely missing outside. That pitch could have been called a strike, though.
Mercedes-Benz Ultramo, brought to you by your tri-state dealers, on the web at searchmercedes.com. So 1 out and 1 on. Wandy Rodriguez up there to bunt. And takes a strike. Wandy, a left-hand pitcher, but a right-hand batter. 0 for 4 this year with 1 sacrifice.
Interesting pitch there. First pitch to the pitcher with 1 out. A curveball by Nice.
Comes back with a fastball for a strike to put him in an 0-2 hole. And Wandy thinking, I hope I get that call.
Dave Clark giving the signs.
And Rodriguez fouls off the bunt attempt for strike 3.
That curveball brought him to his knees. There we go. That is not a proper way to bunt.
Here's your Mets upcoming schedule. Remember, all Met games on SNY are available in HD, presented by IOTV, and you can listen to every Mets game on Sports Radio 66 WFAN. 3 with the Astros, 3 with the Diamondbacks this week, and then to Washington and Philly again next week. How about that? 2 trips to Philly before the end of April.
That's right. Isn't that amazing? And then the Mets go back to Philadelphia in late August, not in September.
Michael Bourne singled, stole a base, and scored a run in the first inning.
Well, that 3 divisions now, it's just the scheduling is so much more difficult.
Well, then throw an interleague play, which comes up
exactly
the works entirely. And Bourne leans away from the curveball, 1-1. Michael Bourne, the former Philly. And a nice looking fastball for a strike, 1-2.
I was just thinking with Bourne's hit at his first at bat, he must lick his chops when it comes to this ballpark. This is tailor made for his kind of game.
Hit the ball and run for days. 1-2 from Nice, and a late swing foul.
You see the defense set up a slightly shaded in the outfield, the opposite field. Pretty much straight up on the infield.
This checks in on Tolles, who's no threat to be going anywhere. And that curveball sits inside. So a lot of fastballs and curves early in the game from Nice.
It's almost like they've taken away one of his weapons to simplify the game for Jonathan early.
And another curve coming. And it's down low and a full count to Bourne. (3-2). Tolles runs and Bourne fouls off that 93-mile-an-hour fastball.
Good cut by Bourne on that ball away.
Angel Sanchez on deck.
Makes me think that he's vulnerable inside, Ronnie, up and in. He's really hanging in there, so you can pop him in. But they're going to come with a hook.
8th pitch of the at-bat, and the fastball is low for ball 4, and the Astros have 2 men on, 2 walks in the inning, and 3 already for Nice after he was ahead of Bourne. The Mets have walked more hitters than any staff in the National League. That's now 71 walks in 143 innings.
Well, they're giving up a tremendous amount of home runs. Only one team has given up more, and the walks, and that's a bad combination.
Well, and also it's why the ERA is over 5, and there's only one team with an ERA higher, and that's the Arizona Diamondbacks.
We'll see later in the week. Here's Angel Sanchez, and he takes ball 1. Sanchez sacrificed his first time up. Josh Tolle will go out to the mound to talk to Nice, who's only 24 years old, still learning his craft.
And he has such a great upside. I think watching him right here, it just seems like he's trying to rush through these first 2 or 3 innings. He always works quickly anyways, but you know, with those deep breaths and really trying to get that potato and throw it as quick as he can, just rushing a little bit here.
There's a cutter.
And not being helped by the home plate umpire. He's throwing some nice pitches that are very close.
Yeah, that goes all the way back to the first 2 pitches of the game, which were close, but were not called strikes by Kerwin Danley. Now behind on Sanchez, 2-0. And it's dribbled into the ground. Tolle out to get it. Turns and fires. And that'll end the inning. So Nice retires Sanchez to get through a couple of walks in the second. Still 1-0 Houston. Carlos Beltran starts the home second inning for New York. The former Astro, as he gets reminded every time the Mets go to Houston, takes a strike. He left after 2004, and they still boo him every time he touches the ball in Houston.
I don't know how they can boo him with the play he had in that short season.
Right at the shortstop, Sanchez, who plays it off to the side, shows off that pop gun arm for the first out. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Chase. Deposit checks from your smartphone with quick deposit. Take a step forward and chase what matters. By Verizon Fios, switch to Fios and network ahead. To learn more, visit Verizon.com/getFios. And by Bud Light Lime, the just right taste of Bud Light with a refreshing splash of 100% natural lime flavor. Here's Ike Davis. Ike had a good day on Sunday to snap out of a brief spell. Went 2 for 3 and drove in a run. Hitting at .291 for the year. And takes the fastball upstairs from Wandy Rodriguez.
12 RBI on the season. That leads the Mets.
And a .394 on base percentage, and that's easily the best among the Mets regulars.
And he's been able to have that not only with the hits, but 9 walks.
Well, he's been ahead in the count, it has seemed, all season long. He's been 2-0-3 and won every at bat.
He still likes to take that outside corner pitch, like he's waiting for that ball out over the middle.
Looks one to left field. Should be easy for Carlos Lee. And there are 2 out. So Wandy Rodriguez is sent down to first 5.
You know, when you're a smaller pitcher, smaller in stature. You want to throw the ball 90 miles an hour. You got to have strong legs, and you got to have a long stride. It really shows that you're using the backside, your left leg and your backside to really get through that baseball. That's how you throw it hard, even though he's, what, 5'8", maybe? 5'9"?
They list him at 5'11". It's a little generous, perhaps.
It's an NBA listing.
Just as they listed him under a different name when he was first signed. He was Endy Cabreja. Taken for a strike. And then they found out his real name was Wandy Rodriguez, and he was 3 years older than he originally let on. Angel Pagan's been a puzzling start for Angel, but here he dumps one into right center, and Pence makes the slide but can't get to it. Pagan heads for second, and Pence's throw too late, and Pagan has himself a double. Nice try by Pence, who closed a lot of ground.
Well, he tries to pull the deke here and then gets caught with the fake, and you can't do that with Angel. You got to know that Angel hustles out of the box every time, no matter what, a ground ball or a fly ball or a line drive. He's always hustling out of the box, and that should not have been a double. Good hustle.
Just the third extra base hit of the season for Pagan and his first double. Pence pretty wet out there now. Have to change his pants after this half inning. So here's Scott Hairston getting the start in left field, his fifth start of the year. Scott has great career numbers against Wandy Rodriguez, 6 for 11 with a couple of home runs, and that earned him the start. There's Justin Turner getting ready for his first big league at bat of the year. And the breaking ball fouled off by Hairston, 1-1.
Well, maybe Pence knew Hairston's numbers, because usually in that situation with 2 outs, you wouldn't take a chance on diving that baseball. It goes to the wall. That's a triple easily for Angel Pagan.
And you see the numbers for Scott against Wandy Rodriguez. One thing about Wandy, he's going to throw strikes and challenge you most of the time. One of the best control pitchers in the league. Yeah, Hairston yanks one foul, 1-2.
You know, we were talking about Jonathan Neese beginning this game. He's got to elevate his pitching a little bit, start pitching the way he can. I think Scott Hairston has to get to a point where he elevates his game, especially when he gets the starts against left-handed pitching. That's where he's really made his living.
Of course, those starting assignments for Hairston and Harris should start drying up on Thursday when Jason Bay is scheduled to rejoin the Mets. Jason's going to play on rehab tonight and tomorrow night down in Florida. And then the plan is for him to be in the lineup for the last game of this series on Thursday night. And it won't come a moment too soon. Here's the 1-2, and the breaking ball down, 2-2.
And the Mets still going with that four-man bench, playing short-handed. And that will probably put an end to that, I would think.
I would think so.
Yes. Too difficult to manage with 4 men on your bench. It just puts your manager at a severe disadvantage.
Well, the Mets signed Scott Hairston in part because of his proficiency against left-hand pitching and getting that opportunity tonight. Trying to pick up Pagan from second with a tying run. 2-2 from Rodriguez. Swing and a miss. Got him with a high, hard one for his first strikeout of the night. Well, we promised you the 1986 National League Championship Series. We'll start looking at it in depth. Take a game and inning when we come back. Hunter Pence leads off in the third inning for the Astros. Walked his first time up. Swings and misses at the first pitch in his second at bat against John Neese. Carlos Lee and Chris Johnson to follow in the third. And the curveball bounced down to third where David Wright retreats to get it. And throws out Pence one away. Third inning brought to you by freescore.com. 3 credit scores, 1 place. Well, it was 25 years ago this year that the Mets and Astros met in an historic and maybe the best postseason series ever. And everybody remembers how it ended with the 16-inning game in Houston in Game 6. But we thought, since the Astros are in town and Keith and Ron are together tonight, and they were both there 25 years ago, that we'd take you through that series in a little more depth than we normally do, because it wasn't just the way it ended. It was really everything about that series that was just so phenomenal. And it all started with Game 1 and the first meeting in that series with Mike Scott, who became the central figure of that series.
Well, he became also the MVP of that division, the National League Series, on a losing effort. He beat us twice.
To that point, it was the only person that had ever won the MVP on the losing side.
Now remember, his second to last start of the regular season, Mike Scott had thrown a no-hitter as Carlos Lee pulls a base hit through the hole, and the Astros have a one-out base runner. Second to last start of the season, he pitched a no-hitter in the game that clinched the National League West. That had never been done before. And so he came into the series on an incredible roll.
No, did you see me drop down the one knee in that home run? I knew it was gone. He crushed it. That was
and Glenn Davis hitting the home run in the second inning off Doc Gooden.
And that was the only run of the game. And that was a tough loss in that first game.
5-hitter, 14 strikeouts for Scott, and really set the tone for not only the way he was going to pitch, but the way you guys needed to approach the rest of the series.
I think it changed the entire series. One thing I will tell you, people out there, I had never been to a stadium that loud. The Astrodome, that entire series. It was just electric and crazy and anti-Mets, and a lot of things that happened that year. I was included in 4 Mets getting arrested during the summer. You know, back and forth. There were a lot of really highly contested games all year. And kid you not, we knew they were a good ball club, even past Mike Scott.
Chris Johnson to the right side. Justin Turner runs it down. His one-hop throw, though, goes past Reyes. Nobody's covering third base, so Lee's trying to get there, Wright racing him, and he tags him out. David Wright outruns Carlos Lee, who is hurt after making that dive into third base. And that's the second out of the inning. So Lee seeing third base unoccupied, trying to get there before David Wright, but he just didn't have the wheels to do it.
Well, good aggressive base running. I think he's going to be okay. Probably just a little bruise on his elbow. But nice play by Turner here, and not a good throw to Reyes. And heads up by Davis to be backing. For David to be backing up. And makes the nice play here. I mean, look, watch David. He kind of sees, and then he makes the move to get the ball. And if you have any kind of a runner going to third, besides Lee, they're going to be safe.
How about the hustle and dive that David took to apply the tag? Watch his head. Wow.
Wow.
So very nice play.
It's a fielder's choice, an error on Turner, and then 5 unassisted. Wright tagging out Lee. And Johnson took second on the play. He's there with 2 out, and Bill Hall at the plate. So that game finished 1-0 Houston, that Game 1. Now, I'm going to take you through a couple of details. The 8th inning, you got back-to-back hits from Heap and Dykstra, really the best threat against Scott the whole game. But then first Wally Backman, and then you had chances to drive in a run, and both struck out.
Well, I'm not perfect.
Well, we remember you that way. That's why I just wanted to mix in, the enlightening details.
It's a pretty tough pitcher out there.
Well, I guess that's my point. I mean, in that kind of situation, you're coming up against a guy that good, and you need a base hit to tie the game, and you're not a guy who struck out a whole lot, and you did.
He had 303 punch-outs that year, Gary. He was as hard as it gets.
Hall strikes out to end the inning. Great play by David Wright to tag out Carlos Lee to get Neese through the inning. Home third inning, Mets down 1-0, and Justin Turner will get his first big league at bat of the season. He had 8 at bats for the Mets last year. Was hitting .300 at Buffalo. Called up today. 26-year-old out of Cal State's Fullerton takes a strike from Wandy Rodriguez. Turner, it will not surprise you, has carried the nickname of Red throughout his life. Kind of a right-hand hitting version of another old Mets infielder,
Wayne Garrett.
Wayne Garrett, exactly.
Looks a little bit like Wayne.
And curveball inside to Turner, 1-1.
Started with Baltimore last year, right? And that's picked him up on waivers.
Originally drafted by the Reds out of college. Bouncing ball, and the shortstop Sanchez has it. 1 away. So Wandy Rodriguez has retired the leadoff hitter, 3 straight innings. And now John Neese will come to bat. John Neese, who was born shortly after that '86 playoff season. In fact, he was born the day of Game 7 of the World Series in 1986. Born to be a Met.
Born to be a Met, but he has to be what? Reds fan, isn't he? Wasn't his family Reds fans? Born in Ohio, of course.
Defiance, Ohio.
That's a cool name to be born in. Millbury, Mass. doesn't quite make it. I mean, Honolulu, Hawaii makes it.
That's what you tell people, right?
That's right.
I was born in Flushing.
That doesn't make it either. Sorry.
Unless you're a Met fan.
Yeah, I guess.
It's a very nice Dutch name.
Curveball for a strike, 1-2. And that curveball gets Neese looking, so both these left-handers dealing the hooks tonight. Second strikeout for Rodriguez.
Well, that's a bad payback right there, because when Wandy Rodriguez is up the bunt, he got 2 curveballs and struck out, so payback.
Now Reyes will bat. When people ask you where you were born, what do you say?
Pacifica. I was actually born in San Francisco.
That's cool.
Yes.
The city.
St. Francis.
There's Reyes, who fouled out to first base his first time up. And it's taken for ball 1. Well, we looked at game 1 of the '86 League Championship Series. We'll look at game 2 next. And we're going to welcome in the guy who pitched game 2 for the Mets, Bobby Ojeda.
Who made a great play in the field.
That's right.
It was a 1U on your scorecard.
Got Kevin Bassett home.
Oh, it was just brilliant. It was always like a cat.
So Bobby O will join us in the 4th inning. Reyes chasing the changeup, and it's 1-2.
I think he beat up on a pretty good pitcher, Mr. Ryan.
That's right.
He beat Ryan that game.
Popped up. Sanchez and Hall retreating, and Hall makes the call, and that retires the side. So the Mets have managed just 1 base runner over the first 3 innings. So we'll look at game 2 of the 1986 League Championship Series. Oh, look at that guy. He had a big hit.
Go, go. Come on, make that.
Brett Wallace leads off the 4th inning for Houston. Wallace, the number 7 hitter, flying to center his first time up. Astros got a run in the first and lead John Neeson and the Mets 1-0. And Wallace takes inside 2-0. JR Tolles, the catcher, on deck, and then Wandy Rodriguez for Houston in the 4th. Wallace, a big prospect who's been well traveled, acquired from Toronto last summer. And he takes that curveball for ball 3. Another guy who's been with multiple organizations before finally getting a big league chance. Played with Ike Davis at Arizona State. There's a strike, 3-1. Ike was a pitcher then. And Wallace, I think, was a third baseman most of the time. There's a fastball for a strike, 3-2. And Wallace rips one right through the hole and a base hit to right field. Beltran over quickly to get it, and Wallace stops at first with a leadoff single. Well, game 2 of the '86 League Championship Series. Mets were desperate for a win, down 1-0. After Mike Scott shut him out, Bobby Ojeda took the mound through a complete game 10 hitter. Here's Bobby O, and probably as big a play as he made in the game was this one in the 2nd inning.
Nice.
Tagging out Kevin Bass.
That got us on the board right there. That was my triple. That got us ahead 2-0. We knew, Ronnie, Gary, going into that game, we couldn't go home down 2-0 with that pitching staff. We had to beat Ryan.
And Bobby O is with us from the studio. What was on your shoulders going into that game, Bobby?
Well, you know, the great thing about that team, offensively, they were never intimidated. I know it was Nolan Ryan, but our guys weren't afraid of anybody. It could have been other than Mike Scott. You guys were afraid of him. But I didn't feel this added sense of pressure. I always felt that we were going to score off no matter who was out there.
And it was a scoreless game till the 4th. Gary Carter had a 2-run double. Keith had that 2-run triple in the 5th. And then you had the runs you need. But they had base runners virtually the entire game, Bobby.
Yeah, well, that was the plan. I thought, you know, I'll tire them out, and then on game 3, they'll be, you know, we'll have the edge.
What do you remember about the atmosphere in that ballpark? Because Ronnie was talking about how it was the loudest place he had ever heard.
It was electric. I mean, that whole playoffs and World Series was incredible, you know, by itself. It was. Everybody had a sense of something big was going on, and even on the other side in the AL, they had the same situation.
Bobby, pitching against Nolan Ryan must have been something. I know that you don't worry about, but the hitting part, at some point you have to face that 95-mile-an-hour gas.
Well, Ronnie, you know, spoken like a pitcher. He actually threw a pitch that I was going to swing at that hit the mitt before I could pull the trigger. Honest to goodness, I never saw the ball. And then I looked at whoever was catching, and I just laughed. I told him I was going to swing at that.
Well, we already penciled in right now. We weren't going to get. It was an automatic 0-for-4 from Bobby for a complete game. But that was a game, like I said, we had to have. We had to go back home even, and we had to beat a future Hall of Famer and the all-time strikeout leader. And right-handers just. If they beat us, they had to be good. That was what was so outstanding about Scott, who beat us twice that series and really overmatched us in that series.
You know, Bobby, I remember the one thing I remember was the outpouring. You gave up a couple of hits to Dickie Thon, and I had been there in the Astrodome when Mike Torres had hit him in the eye, and we thought maybe ended his career. And the outpouring of love for Dickie Thon in that game as he got a couple of hits. I know it wasn't great for you, but it was an interesting crowd that really pulled for their team. They fell in love with those Astros.
They did. That was an interesting time. I think we had a little something to do with making it personal with some of our antics. But, yeah, they were definitely into it, and they loved to hate us that year, and that, I guess we thrived on that. The more people didn't like us, the more we thrived on it, that's for sure.
Bobby, who was the guy in that Houston lineup who gave you the most trouble?
You know, the first baseman. What was his name?
Glenn Davis.
Glenn Davis. He scared me because he was so big and swung hard. And if he connected and drove one up the middle, which he did on me, it's concerning because he hit the ball so hard. He's one of those you don't really have time to react, and you're going to wear it if it's right at you. So he was a big concern to me just in how hard he hit the ball.
Bobby, did you find that you always had some concerns, because I would. We were both ground ball pitchers. Pitching that Astrodome, that turf seemed like it was from 1964 or whatever. Those ground balls would go through the infield.
It was hot turf. Yeah, you're right, Ronnie. It was like green concrete. But, you know, we did have it was cavernous out there, so if we did leave a few up, it was at least forgiving in the air.
Now, we showed the play at the plate where you tagged out Kevin Bass. What exactly happened there? As it's hit toward the gap by J.R. Tolles, and he's got himself an extra base hit. Wallace breaking for third, and he's going to turn and score easily. So J.R. Tolles with an RBI double gives Houston a 2-0 lead. Third RBI for Tolles. So the little chopper's hit in front of the mound on that play, and you end up tagging out Bass at the plate. How did that develop?
Well, you know, it was the only play, and similar to the last inning when David Wright dove and you just sell out, and you know it's either a make or break. It was that kind of thing. It was no time to think about it. As soon as I got it, that was the only play to happen, and I got lucky. You know, I nicked him on the arm or leg, whatever it was.
Just got him on the arm, and the umpire almost took you out there. Get out of the way, will you?
Now, at least Carter cleared out of the way. He can get run over on that play as Wandy Rodriguez takes outside for ball one. Well, Bobby, you know, these guys had been with that ball club for a couple of years leading up to '86, but you'd just gotten there and you know, pitched a great season, 18-5. And when you got there, did you understand what was expected that year? Because, I mean, that team coming off what they had done in '85, they kind of expected to dominate.
Yeah, I really didn't, Gary. Absolutely. I didn't know much about them. After I got traded, I did a little homework. But I had no idea what they were really about. And after 2 weeks of spring training, I was thinking, this might be a pretty good fit.
Playing third for Nice. And Wright puts down the tag on Tolles for the first down. So the Mets getting out on the butt play for the first out of the inning.
Well, a lot of this is due to the pressure that's put on Wandy Rodriguez to bunt. If you notice, Ike Davis, look how close he is. And I love that. That puts pressure on the pitcher. You see everybody yelling 3. So there's no doubt in anybody's mind, and particularly, most importantly, the pitcher's mind where he's throwing the ball.
Ball one to Michael Bourne, who's singled and walked in this game. Well, clearly that game, too, was a pivotal game in the series. I know you guys fell behind 2-0 in the World Series and were able to fight back against Boston, but considering what the Astros had in terms of a weapon in Mike Scott, and, you know, that became more of an issue later in the series, that game, too, was enormously important to avoid falling down 2-0 going home, right?
Well, it was, because we were thinking ahead, and anytime we just really wanted to avoid Scott again after what he did to us on day one. It was no surprise. So every win we looked at as like it's one less chance of facing Scott, because he really had our number, because he was fantastic that year. Yeah, he was cutting the ball. He may deny it to this day, but we had a bag full of them. He was cutting it. But even if you cut it, you still got to use it, and he used it like a professor. It was awesome to watch.
Nice on the cutbacker. Reyes with the turn. 1-6-3 double play. Bobby O, thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing your recollections.
All right, guys. I'll see you after.
Astros get a run on the Tolles RBI double, and the Mets trail 2-0.
We go to the home fourth here at Citi Field on a rainy, wet night. You know, it's funny how baseball kind of comes full circle sometimes. Seems like guys you come in contact with years ago, you end up working with them or playing with them again. No different here for this Mets new staff. Terry Collins at one time was the brief manager for Chip Hale back in 1998. Hale actually invited to the Angels spring training, and he got a chance to work under Terry Collins. And, you know, it's funny. Chip says he was the same guy. I remember the same guy, and I know the stuff that came out of Anaheim, but to me, he was the guy that just had a big-time passion for the game. He was intense, and he loved the game, and that's the guy that I remember. Very much the same in this spring training. I didn't find much difference as Josh Thole leads it off against Wandy Rodriguez here. I asked Terry Collins about what he remembers about Chip Hale. He said, boy, was he a grinded-out guy, a good line drive hitter, and he was so intense. I love the guy. However, 2 days for the regular season, the Angels traded him away. He never got a chance to actually play for Terry Collins during the regular season. Chip then went on to the Cardinals organization. He played that year in AAA Memphis, and then his career ended. But now the guys back reunited here in New York. Fellas?
They seem a perfect match, don't they?
Yes.
Josh Thole leads off in the home fourth inning and gets ahead 2-1.
Josh yet to get a hit off a left-hander. 0 for 6 on the season.
David Wright on deck, and then Carlos Beltran with the Mets down 2. And that curveball sits inside, 3-1. Mets have not had their leadoff man on. In fact, they've had only one base runner, the double by Angel Pagan, with 2 out in the second. But now Thole's on with a walk to start the fourth. Now David Wright, who had a long fly ball to right center that was caught his first time.
Well, this is a good swing. But David's hitting the lower half of the ball, getting too much in the air. He's got to get constant. It's a good follow through right there. And he's got to focus right now. Okay, I'm hitting too many balls in the air. I want to concentrate on the top half of the ball in batting practice and start hitting line drives in batting practice. And not hit one fly ball in BP or one home run. You want to work on line drives, getting on top of that ball, and then those balls, he'll hit them more squarely and they'll go out.
That'd be my favorite shot yet from the Mercedes-Benz Ultra Low, brought to you by your tri-state dealers on the web at searchmercedes.com. You had that rain falling, you had the little puff of dirt when the ball hit the bat.
He got the muscles in his forearm when he releases the bat.
Good curveball right there.
And a good fastball by Rodriguez, thrown by David, and it's 0-2.
Boy, threw it right by him, Ryan.
Well, usually when you have the big right-handed hitters, you see this ultra-low swing. Up and in, just ties David up.
Big uppercut swing.
David now hitless in his last 13 at-bats, and in an 0-2 hole.
Curveball to start. Fastball tied him up. Fastball out of the strike zone. Bounce the curveball. Possibly.
Or double up on the up and in. They're going to come with a curl. He shook him off. Wants fastball in, RJ.
Missed with it. 2-2.
Hey, Keith, how much can one series throw you off? I mean, you know, I was talking to David today about how he's felt at the plate. He said, you know, honestly, I felt pretty good all year until the Braves series. I just, you know, totally out of sync in that series. They pitched me well, and I didn't do anything with the balls that I had a chance to put in play and hit them hard.
And that curveball freezes him, and David's down looking. Third strikeout for Wandy Rodriguez.
Good curve here, just ties up David, all those fastballs. And Kev, getting back to your question, that's one of the great mysteries of baseball life. What is it when you're swinging the bat good on a hot streak for so long and then consistent, then you come to the park one day, Kev, and you lost it. And you go, oh my goodness, where has it gone? It doesn't feel good in BP, Kev. And then it goes into the game, and then you get a couple games where you're losing it, and then it's what a slump is called. What causes you to go in a slump? I can't tell you. But there isn't a man alive, you know, outside the guys that hit 400 or 370s that hit 300 every year, and that's a rarity in today's game, a rarity in my time. You're going to go in a slump in the course of a season. You want to keep them at a minimum. I always felt if I went into 2 slumps, it was a win for me in the course of a season. But it was always the same, Kev. Why, if I've been swinging the bat so good and I come one day and I start worrying, and I start feeling like I haven't swung a bat in 6 months.
And you can't put your finger on it. I think it's just the way things, the course of how the season goes for you. And then on the other side, my slumps went for around 52 at bats. I'd go like maybe 6 for 52. And then what makes you come out of it? And then you hit the one ball hard. I mean, for me, it was the outside corner, and I wasn't pulling it and going the opposite way. And then I would say, that's my swing. Where's it been? And then you go in a hot streak. I can't tell you why it happens, but I think it's a natural course of events.
3-1 to Beltran, and he chases the changeup off the plate. 3-2. It is a mystery. I mean, hitting appears to be a mystery to those of us who've never done it.
I mean, the old adage is, right, no bad habits. You do everything with good habits. So you get in bad habits, but in your practice. Well, I always took my BP very seriously, and but I would in the slumps. And Lou Brock always said it was never physical, it was always mental.
And another changeup by Wandy Rodriguez, back-to-back on 3-1 and 3-2, and he gets Beltran for the second out.
Well placed. You can't put it any better than this. Low on the corner, outside and down. High ball hitter from the right side is Beltran.
So great pitching by Wandy Rodriguez, who fell behind Beltran 3-0 and came back to get him. And somewhere in Houston, the fans are cheering.
Now they're cheering because he chose the Mets over signing with them, right?
Well, the thing that always puzzled me about the reaction to Beltran in Houston is he was an Astro for what, 3 months?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like he'd been there for 10 years and that they nurtured him. They got him from Kansas City.
But he was the greatest Astro they've ever had for those 3 months.
Oh, especially for the 2 weeks.
What a playoff. What a postseason.
8 home runs in 12 games.
That got him a huge contract, did it not?
7 years. This is year 7. There's a strike to Ike Davis, 1-1. Ike fly to left his first time up. 119 million, something in that neighborhood. Toley at first, he drew a leadoff walk. Rodriguez has struck out the next 2. And his curveball knocked down by Tolles, 2-1.
But Keith, if I take what you're saying, it makes a lot of sense to me. As far as slumps are concerned, the great players ride that good wave for the longest time. And when you're scuffling, you just try to survive. I think the same happened with pitching. When you're riding a good streak, you got to win as many games as you can, because you're going to have those games where you're not that good.
Is a pitching slump, though, as mysterious as a hitting slump?
It's not as mysterious, because you could pitch a fine game. You could pitch a month of fine games and be 1-4. You really can. So you count on your teammates to help you out.
Ike in another positive count. Seems like he's been 2-0, 3-1 every at bat. And now a full count. Just a warning, Ronnie. We're going to talk about Game 3 next inning.
Oh, jeez. Well, I'm only in it for 5 innings, so it's not that big of a deal.
Toley gets set to run. 3-2 at 2 down. And it's outside, ball 4, and the Mets have 2 men on. It's okay because nobody remembers your part of the game. All they remember is how it ended.
Very happy about that. Very true.
That was the game that was you hooked up against Knepper, correct?
I went up against Knepper, yeah.
And
both of us
had a big home run.
Yeah, both of us were pretty mediocre. After the 5th inning is when the real stuff started.
So here's Angel Pagan. The Mets have the tying runs on base with 2 down. Angel hit a sinking drive into right center. Hunter Pence tried to make a diving catch but trapped it, and Angel wound up with a double. His first double of the season, which gives you an idea how his season has begun. In fact, that was Angel's first hit as a right-handed batter this season. He had gone 0 for 13 until that double. And he takes the curveball for a strike. Two out runner in scoring position. It hasn't just been Pagan, it's been the whole team. The Mets, as a group, hitting 176 so far this year with 2 outs and runners in scoring position. Tied up inside, just missed. 1-1.
Pretty good pitch right there. You see Angel's problems. With 2 outs, runners in scoring position, the hardest RBI in the game. The clutchest RBI in the game, I should say. 2-out RBI. Put a positive spin on that.
On the corner, 1-2.
What a great sequence of pitches. Yes. Curveball for a strike, get me over. Fastball inside to brush him off the plate. Change up on the black away.
Yep.
Gives him a lot of options, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Let's see what he follows up with. He can finish it.
Well, tapper in front of the plate. Tolles throws out Pagan to end the inning. 2 walks and 2 left. We've played 4 now at Citi Field. Wandy Rodriguez and the Astros with a 2-0 lead. SNY Play Ball Award presented by Sports Authority, offering $5,000 grants to in-need organizations to be used for new equipment, uniforms, or field improvements. The deadline to apply June 15th. For details, visit sny.tv or any local Sports Authority location. 5th inning, Angel Sanchez leads off against John Neese, who appeared to stumble coming down off that wet mound. Rain has picked up in intensity a little bit over the last few minutes. Sanchez is sacrificed and then hit a dribbler in front of the plate, and Tolle threw him out in the second. 0 for 1. And he's dents the outside edge, 1-1.
It's a classic case, isn't it? Jonathan Neese not getting a lot of pitches early, then establishing he can throw strikes. Umpires opening up the strike zone.
John walked 3 over the first 2 innings, none since. He's made a couple of good defensive plays in this game, starting a 1-6-3 double play, getting an out at third on a bunt. Had that diving tag by David Wright that helped him out. Just poked foul by Sanchez. So Neese hanging in there, and that's not doing any scoring for him so far tonight.
The Mets have kind of hit a bump in the road offensively. Remember, they were scoring 5 runs plus per game. Now they're just a little over, averaging a little over 4 per game.
Well, they scored only 5 runs in the 3-game series in Atlanta, and none tonight. And of course, David Wright going cold does not help the cause.
There's a lot of Angel Pagan not hitting. Ike, even though he had a good Sunday, he struggled. Reyes has been the only one really shining.
Been some long at bats for the Astros in this game. The last inning, J.R. Tolles had a 10-pitch at bat before he doubled and drove in a run. And so Neese already up to 87 pitches with nobody out of the 5th. His 5th 3-2 count. And he walks Sanchez to start the 5th. So that's the 4th walk given up by Nice, and the Mets' troubling propensity for walks continues.
You know, it's interesting is in 2009, the Mets really struggled with walking batters, and then Dan was able to rectify that last season when they were outstanding, but back to 2009 form.
So here's Hunter Pence with a man on. Walked and grounded out. Takes the curveball high. Pence with 10 RBIs in the last 10 games. Look the way he chokes up on the bat.
You know what's interesting is that you watch Wandy Rodriguez and these both have a good curveball, right? Wandy Rodriguez is a more traditional, holds it with 2 fingers, kind of gives him more leverage on that ball, more control. Jonathan Nice, in fact, when he throws that curveball, really it's a 1-finger curveball. Only his middle finger and his thumb is on the baseball, actually 2, but really the middle finger is the guiding finger. Sometimes hard to have the same control over that baseball in rainy conditions.
Now, why would a pitcher opt for a 1-finger curveball if he has that much less control?
Because what happened is that he probably early in his career developed where he was not getting enough pressure on that middle finger to make that ball spin.
Hit hard to third, right to second for 1. Turner with the turn and the dirt out. This back the scoop by Ike. Pence beats it. So Turner trying to make the turn.
Watch the tap of David in the glove. Taps the glove. It's not a good throw by Turner, but also with the tap of the glove by Wright, it lets the runner get in and make it tough on Turner on the throw. Nice scoop. Mets have got to turn double plays. And we've seen too many times, I have seen too many times on ground balls like that are hit hard and they're not turned. And they've got to be turned.
So now Carlos Lee, who's 2 for 2, singled home a run in the first inning. Single to left in the third, and then got tagged out by David Wright trying to steal an extra base. Another double play chance, another tap by Wright. This time Turner with plenty of time against the slow-footed Lee, and they turn it 5-4-3. The Mets' second double play of the game. Halfway through at Citi Field, it's 2-0 Houston.
Playing baseball here at Citi Field, where the Mets have just 1 hit off Wandy Rodriguez, and Scott Hairston will lead it off for New York. And he is different than every other Met in one sense. He is the only person on the team that uses a birch bat. It's kind of a new thing in Major League Baseball. The last 3 or 4 years, teams have kind of had the option to go ahead and place orders for those bats, and more guys are using birch bats. Now, I asked Scott why and when he made the change. And he said last year in San Diego, it was Matt Stairs who came to him and said, hey, why don't you try my bat? Just check out how this feels, what do you like about it? And for the last few weeks of the season, he used it and really, really liked it. So you know what? I've used all 3 bats in my career now. I used Maple in my career earlier. Very, very hard, no give. I've used Ash, and I like the way Ash felt, but the problem is I broke so many bats that, you know, I'd get into a groove with a good bat the way it felt, and then I'd break it. So this felt good. It had a little bit of a bend, of a give to it, enough of a bend, but it lasted a lot longer for me. So I'll give you an example. In spring training every year, you know, usually an Ash bat would last me personally, you know, maybe a week. I use the same bat in batting practice the entire spring training. He's like, that's the type of durability it had for me. And in terms of costs, I talked to Kevin Kears, the Mets clubhouse manager. Ash is the cheapest. Ash is about $60. Maple can get expensive. It starts in the low end around 60, can get up into the $90 range. And then the birch bat is somewhere in between. The birch bat is about $70 to $80 range. So Harrison, the only Met right now, who knows? Maybe it grows in the near future. Guys?
Well, the one thing that you said that was that Harrison said that was kind of poignant was Maple's hard, has no give, and where Ash was more pliant. I mean, you want that whip of the bat, and then he goes for a high fastball again. Second strikeout for Harrison. You want that bat to have a recoil, as you see going after the high fastball. It's 2 in a row where he's chased high out of the strike zone. Whereas the Maple, it's like a lead pipe. There's no give. That's why that Maple shatters and breaks, and just the one end goes to the other one. Now, I don't know anything about the birch. It's somewhere in between. Fine. I know the Maple's a lead pipe. All we had was the white ash, so I really can't comment from my experiences of the other 2 bats, other than I know that they're like lead pipes.
But the fact that a Maple bat has less give, does that make the ball travel further?
Well, it's a harder wood too, Gare. And to me, unlike Scott, I had a bat last me in 6 weeks sometimes, you know, and that bat was like a war club in the end. It was just pounded into it. It just got more compressed. And it was always a bat when you finally did break it. Boy, it was like, oh no, but you always had a backup. Always had a backup. You were always using another couple bats in batting practice. Not your gamer. You never used your gamer in batting practice. You always used your lesser wood. But you always had, you know, when you're going to break a bat in the course of a season, so you had to have around 3, 4, 5 backups. And you swung with them in BP because the bat gets compressed with each time the contact with the barrel of the bat. The wood gets more compressed. I hope I was clear with that.
Well, Keith, is that, you know, more because of the bat regulations and more guys kind of going longer and lighter, like stretching out those regulations now? I mean, that maybe could be a factor as well in the fact of those breaking.
I just think, Kev, a lot of it has to do with the aluminum bats, and a lot of these kids today that are up in the big leagues grew up with aluminum bats, and they're not heavy, and it's what they're used to. And you know, they're familiar with lighter bats. They're stronger than we were. These guys work out. They lift weights. You'd think that they would be able to use. I mean, I use a 32.5-ounce bat, which was light for our generation. But you would think with the strength of the players today that they could wield a 34 or 35-ounce bat. And the heavier the bat, Kev, the better the wood.
I think the problem you got today's player, if you grew up with aluminum bats, you grew up with a thin handle, and it really goes up into a large hitting surface, and that's what they're used to.
They start out in Little League with a 28-inch, 17-ounce bat. You know, it goes from there. Great at bat here for Justin Turner, and he finishes it off with a line drive to second. And Bill Hall grabs it for the second out. So Turner with an 8-pitch marathon is retired. And the Mets still looking for their second hit. As John Neese steps in. Took a call third strike his first time up.
Garrett, I add a point to that. I wish I could have swung a 34-ounce bat. But I never wanted the bat to swing me. I always felt if I had a bat in my hand, Adirondack bats always, which were now Rawlings, always, they were white ash. I could get the same length of bat and the same weight and the same model, and the Adirondack bat felt an ounce heavier. And I'd never wanted a bat to feel like the bat swung me, because if I thought the bat was too heavy in my hands, then I would rush my feet forward and feel I had to compensate for the heaviness of the bat to get the barrel out, which is really, it's not, well, it is true. And that would get me in a bad habit. I wanted to be able to have a bat. I feel that I can just let my hands do the work.
And of course, now everybody uses a relatively light bat because the mantra is bat speed.
Yeah.
You know, Gary, you asked the question, does maple mean you hit it farther? I think I have the perfect experiment for you. Mike Pelfrey switched to a maple bat this year. If he starts hitting home runs, you hit it farther with maple.
Yeah, I guess that would be the test. Do it to Nice.
I don't know if we can publish that, though, in the journal.
We don't exactly have a great control group there. Sanchez gets in front of it, and that overhand toss gets Nice. We have an official game now at Citi Field. 5 in the books, 2-0 Houston.
On the Mets ball club is waiting. Now the pitch. And a high fly ball hit the right field. It is fairly deep. It's way back by the wall. He did it! It's a home run! A home run! The Mets win the ball game. Dykstra hits a home run.
It was the first postseason game at Shea Stadium in 13 years, and that's how it ended. Lenny Dykstra, not known as a home run hitter, he hit only 8 during the season that year, hitting the 2-run homer off Dave Smith in the bottom of the ninth to win it 6-5 and put the Mets up 2-1. Mets came back from 4 runs down in that game. Darryl Strawberry hit a big 3-run homer in that 4-run sixth. And then the Astros got an unearned run in the 7th off Ricky Aguilera before Lenny won it.
My part in this, Billy Dorner was a guy that I always pitched well against for my entire career, and that was the big payback, that 2-run home run, which cost me early in that ball game.
Denny Walling had a big hit also in that
big
game.
Hit. Danny Walling was a very good line drive hitter. And again, we came back from every game except game 2 in that series.
Chris Johnson leads off in the 6th inning for the Astros.
And I think it was Lenny's first mark that he made at being a big October postseason player.
It was also the first of several moments in that series in which you guys faced Dave Smith, who had had a spectacular season for the Astros, but did not come up big in that series.
He had a spectacular season with the Astros, but not against us. We murdered him for some reason. His ERA against us was over 5 for the year. We killed him, and he knew it. And I think if it had been any other team he had to face, it might have been a different story for the Astros.
Charlie Kerfeld pitched the 8th inning in that game, and he was really good in that series.
Really good, but not as good in the next game when we go to it. And the thing about Dave Smith, he became, for whatever reason in that series, kind of the Calvin Schiraldi for Houston against the Mets squad. The Mets just felt confident going against him.
Johnson out to right, and Beltran picks it off for the first out. The Mets were down 4-0 going to the bottom of the 6th against Bob Knepper, who would play an even bigger role later in the series, and then Strawberry hit the bomb that tied up the game.
Well, that was the beauty of our lineup, is that we had power in Darrell and Carter, and we could get back in a ball game when we were down with one swing. And you know, Lenny right there, that was the first of many of Lenny's great postseason hits for both the Phillies and the Mets. Got a big home run in the World Series.
Game 3.
Think about it this way: Game 3 is a good game for Lenny in the postseason.
Well, in the '69 series, Tommy Agee led off Game 3 with a home run.
Past Neese, Turner behind the bag. It hits the cushion, but he stays with it.
But the throw is wide, and Hall is safe at first. Well, that was odd.
How often does this happen? You watch it hit the bag. Nice recovery.
It's a nice adjustment. I think he had not more time than he thought, but I think he rushed the throw just a little bit when he was startled by that carom.
He just knocked him off balance enough. So he's made 3 throws in this game, and none of them have been particularly good. He made the throwing error in the 3rd inning, trying to get a force at second. He bounced the throw to first on the double play attempt in the 5th. And now a wide throw. It's an infield hit for Hall. Brett Wallace, the batter, takes a strike. Wallace singled and scored in the 4th inning. He's also flied out 1 for 2. Pitch count is getting up there for Neese. He's up over 100 pitches now, and so the Mets have the bullpen up in the 6th inning. Pedro Beato, who has been terrific in the beginning of his rookie season. Now the only Rule 5 guy the Mets have left, with Brad Emus having been designated for assignment. 2-1 to Wallace. But going into that Game 3, you know, you had Scott looming in Game 4. After winning Game 2, was that as big of a factor going into Game 3? The pressure of knowing you were going to face Scott again in Game 4?
I think there was huge pressure in every game. You just felt as though we have to get 4 before Scott pitches 7, because you almost had penciled in his start is going to win, so you knew you were going to lose his start, the next one.
They went with a 3-man rotation. They
leaning the wrong way, nearly got picked off.
I thought he was picked off. I'd love to see this again.
It's amazing he didn't go back diving. He's got to go back diving.
Throw it on his hip, like he did. He was out. I don't know how you cannot call that. It was an ugly play from the start. That's a play you love to call. If you make a mistake, usually you're called out.
Paul Nart, the first base umpire. Well, Scott had already thrown the complete game shutout in Game 1 and struck out 14. That's what he did that year. 306 strikeouts. Cy Young Award winner. Won only 18 games, but look at the ERA. Yeah. And of course, he had started his career as a Met before he discovered how to, throw the split/cut. Turner throws out Wallace for the second out as Hall advances to second. Time to check in with Chris Carlin. He's got a New York State Smokers Quit Line game break. Josh Johnson's having himself a pretty fair season so far. Mets going to walk J.R. Tolles, who doubled in a run his last time up, with the pitcher Rodriguez on deck. And that'll give John Neese a chance to get through the 6th, which will undoubtedly be his last inning, with his pitch count approaching 110. This will be the 5th walk given up by Neese, the first intentional pass.
I walked the guy in 4 pitches, Keith. I'd always try to throw the 4th one pretty hard, because you're out there kind of like lollygagging and lobbing it up there. the next pitch I have to throw is going to be a strike with something on it, right? So the last one I would try to throw it. It's not 90 miles an hour, but with a good pace on it. So your last memory is not of just lobbing the ball over the plate.
That makes perfect sense.
So Rodriguez comes up with 2 men on, looking for his first RBI of the year. Has 13 in his career.
He's got the bill of that cap pretty low over his eyes.
Low ball hitter.
2 on and 2 out, and the curveball in for a strike.
What was that baseball line? Low ball hitter, high ball drinker. Well, we'll have to ask Wandy. I don't know.
Lined up the middle, a base hit for Rodriguez. Hall hits third, turns for Hall. Here comes Pagan's throw to the plate, hits the mound. Tolley with the tag. He's out. Great job by Josh Tolley to reach back and tag Bill Hall to keep the run off the board and end the inning. Pagan with the assist, and despite this ball hitting the mound, Tolley able to get it and reach back and tag Hall, and the inning is over. Still 2-0 as we go to the bottom of the 6th. Here to get back and tag Bill Hall as you look at the Coors Light freeze cam.
Tried to give him the old hand, take it away, and he gets his jersey. Yep. Barely.
A little fabric softener.
Wear a tighter jersey.
You guys used to.
It's a little embarrassing now when you look at it, but that's how it was.
Third time around the batting order for the Mets, who've done little against Wandy Rodriguez on their first 2 trips. Angel Pagan has the only hit, a double in the second. Rodriguez has walked 2 and struck out 5. By the way, the Mets tonight have announced that tickets for tonight's game, Tuesday, April 19th, game number 8, can be redeemed for a complimentary ticket to one of the May 30th to June 2nd games against the Pirates at Citi Field. So if you have a ticket for tonight, whether you used it or not, you can trade it in for a ticket to a game against the Pirates May 30th, June 1st, May 30th, 31st, June 1st or 2nd. So that's a nice gesture on a rainy night at Citi Field. Reyes is 0 for 2. He's popped up twice. Look at the Delta keep climbing overhead camera. And Reyes pops up another one. J.R. Tolles hoping it stays in play, but it does not. So it's 0-2 to Reyes, who's just 2 for 17 now in his career against Wandy Rodriguez.
Well, Jose has the problem too of hitting too many balls in the air throughout his whole career. And his money, Jose, is on the ground. Line drives.
But another one in the air, and Michael Bourne with plenty of time to get under it. One away. Well, we're looking at the 25th anniversary of the 1986 National League Championship Series. Mets were up 2-1 going to Game 4, but that man that was there again, Mike Scott, after striking out 14 in Game 1 and throwing a shutout, he only struck out 5, and he gave up a run in Game 4, but home runs by Alan Ashby and Dickie Thon were plenty for Mike Scott to outduel Sid Fernandez in Game 4.
You know, look at that time of game, 2 hours and 23 minutes. I'll let you know, nowadays, if you're lucky to get just under a 4-hour game, that tells you what kind of dominance he had that night.
Only 7 hits in the game, 4 by the Astros and 3 by the Mets. And, you know, Mike Scott was just unbelievable that year. And he beat us up.
John Neese done after 113 pitches as Tolle can't find that fastball, and it's 0-2. Josh is at a comebacker and walked 0 for 1. In the air to center, and another chance for Michael Bourne. You know, you guys got to the point where Mike Scott appeared to be completely unbeatable in this series after the complete game wins in Game 1 and Game 4. Falling back, a little collision with Scott there. Alan Ashby with the home run in the second inning off Sid Fernandez.
And that's. Gary was really always bugged by Mike Scott and spooked by Mike Scott and was really psyched out about him scuffing the ball. Now, Mike Scott, when he scuffed the ball, and he did, he never used it on his split finger. He used it on his fastball. And Mike Scott always threw 97 miles an hour. He threw bullets. And when he came up with the Mets, Gary, he was a fastball slider pitcher and not a great breaking ball. And then he threw the splitter, and that changed everything. And he pitched upstairs with his fastball. Whatever side of the ball he had the scuff, it made it run the opposite direction, I believe. Yes. And he threw a fastball, Gary, right down the middle or the left-hander, outer half of the plate. And I'm telling you, it was up in the strike zone with Mustard, and it would run a foot. I'm telling you, in my mind's eye, it ran a foot.
Off the end of the bat to center field. 3-8 on your scorecard in that 6th inning as the Mets go down 1-2-3. Wandy Rodriguez continues to dominate 2-0 Astros after 6. Tonight, who's the only Met to hit 300 in that 86 LCS against the Astros. Do you know?
I don't believe it was me.
nobody hit a whole lot in that series. The Mets hit under 200 in that series, despite winning 4 games to 2.
Maybe Ray
Knight?
Ray Knight?
Lenny? We'll see.
Now, you were talking about the way Scott's ball moved. How did it appear to you?
Well, Scott, as I said, threw 97 miles an hour, which doesn't give you much time to think. So he would throw the fastball down the middle up here, and the ball would run. He'd scuff the ball on this side, and I'm telling you, in my mind's eye, the ball would run that much. It would run from the middle of the plate and be that far outside at 97 miles an hour. So the ball's like this, and that's tough to lay off. And then he has the split finger, which he didn't throw soft. He threw it hard, and it would go down, and it looked like a fastball coming in. That's the beauty of the split finger. So he was a classic up and down the ladder pitcher with 2 pitches.
One attempt by Bourne, and Tolley throws him out. 1 pitch and 1 retired by Pedro Beato, who has really come front and center in this Mets bullpen.
Well, it's been fantastic all season long. Has not given up an earned run in any of his appearances, and none better than against Atlanta in his last relief appearance. Came in with 2nd and 3rd, got out of that, and then the next inning struck out 3 batters. Was just outstanding curve, good fastball, and for us who've been watching this game, Rule 5 or not Rule 5, he has major league stuff.
Anel Sanchez 0 for 1. He's also sacrificed and walked in this game. And Beato's fastball in for a strike. John Neese threw 113 pitches over 6 innings, allowed 2 runs, 7 hits, walked 5, 1 intentional, struck out 3, and leaves trailing 2-0. As for the 2nd time in the last few games, the Mets have been held completely in check. Kind of game that Jair Jurgens pitched in the 2nd game of the doubleheader on Saturday, and Rodriguez has done the same to them tonight. Hunter Pence waiting on deck. And Beato falls behind 3-1.
These are the things I look for. 3-1. Can he throw 2 fastballs down the middle? Mick Sanchez put it in play.
But he misses inside for ball 4. And so the Astros have a 1-out base runner. From the latest on the Knicks playoff run to insider info on the Mets and Yankees, check out SNY.TV, the ultimate blog network featuring a continuous flow of sports news straight from the best New York sports blogs. SNY.TV, your online home of all things New York sports. So that's 6 walks by Met pitchers in this game. And here's Hunter Pence, who's 0 for 2 and a walk. And a first pitch fastball by Beato, 0-1.
It's the first time through the league for Beato. No one in this league has seen him. There's Pence, first ball, fastball hitting, and he's saying, oh, he's got a little sink.
Pounded into the ground, and it's 0-2.
That's a good sinker, isn't it, Ronnie?
Really good. And some of the things you notice when you're watching a guy that's been moved to the major leagues, maybe a little prematurely, good sink there, late too, is that how does Pedro, we talked about before, could he throw a couple of strikes? He didn't to Sanchez. How does he hold runners on? You know, those are all the things that a reliever has to be very adept at if they're going to limit the damage.
Sanchez with 1 stolen base this year. One and 2 to Hunter Pence. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. Pedro Beato fans Hunter Pence for the 2nd out.
Well, we saw against Atlanta a very good curveball. This is his slider, his 4th pitch that he uses against the right-handed hitters. Late break, after all those sinkers down and in, Pence cannot catch up.
Pretty good pitch. He pitched Pence is if he can pitch people like that, right-hand hitters like that, he's going to have great success.
So now Carlos Lee is 2 for 3 and has driven in a run with a 1st inning single. Carlos Lee, now 34 years old, perfect for that ballpark in Houston with that short porch in left field. The Crawford boxes.
Drives this one to deep left field. Back goes Hairston onto the track, and he can't make the catch as it breaks off his glove. Sanchez to third. He's being waved home, and there'll be no relay throw. It's 3-0 Houston. Well, Scott Hairston has really struggled in the outfield over his first 3 weeks as a Met. Got back there and just simply didn't catch this ball.
Well, he's back pace, doing everything right, but he just got the fence. He started hearing the fence and took his eye off the ball. Got to make that play. Let's watch the back of the runner here, Sanchez. What's he doing? There's 2 outs. My goodness, that's a fine. No excuse.
It scored an error on Scott Hairston, enabling Sanchez to score from first, and it's 3-0 Houston. Mets outfield defense has been so disappointing over these first 17 games.
Well, they call for a sinker. It's a pretty good pitch on the knees. But Carlos Lee, against the Mets, it doesn't seem like whatever you throw to him, he is going to hit a bullet. And he did.
Came into the day a lifetime .344 hitter against the Mets. 2 for 4 today. Get a hit on that one, but hit it hard. So an unearned run against Beato, who still hasn't allowed an earned run this season. But the walk comes around to score.
6 Met walks in this game. One albeit is an intentional pass. So 5 legitimate walks, and that's too many.
1-1 to Chris Johnson, who's 0 for 3 on the day, and he foul tips that one. 1-2. Chris Johnson, whose dad played briefly in the big leagues, Ron Johnson, later a big league coach. Went to Stetson University. He was a Hatter.
DeLand, Florida.
Right.
You know,
every college baseball team in the Northeast ends up playing against Stetson, right?
And I remember when we went there, went with the Yale team, we couldn't believe that there was a class that you could take in water skiing. We were very jealous.
Didn't have that in New Haven?
No.
It's the 1-2. And he fouls off the slider.
And you apply that to what? Your business? What major?
I don't know what it probably.
Or is that a minor?
I don't know what that would be exactly. Maybe if you're a phys ed major, right?
Maybe hotel motel management.
There you go.
Sounds like fun either way. Behind the bag, David makes the long throw to first and gets Chris Johnson to end the inning. The Astros get an unearned run. 7th inning stretch time. When we come back, a look at the climactic Game 5.
And a ground ball, base hit through the middle. Backman around third. Backman coming home. The throw. He scores. The Mets win. The Mets win.
League Championship Series. It was all tied up at 2 apiece. Great pitching matchup in game number 5 between Nolan Ryan and Doc Gooden. Doc went 10 innings. Ryan went 9. And the Mets won it in the 12th. They go up 3 games to 2.
What was everything that we knew the series would be. Great pitching. Obviously, we had the better lineup than Houston, but we knew we were up against good pitching, particularly their starting rotation. Darrell's home run was a humpback line drive that just cleared the wall, if you recall, Ronnie and Gary, just by about a foot.
Beltran hits one to deep left center. Back goes Bourne, looking up, and it's out of here. Carlos Beltran with his 3rd home run of the year, and he gets the Mets on the board. It's now 3-1 Houston. Well, Beltran has 3 home runs. They've all come as a right-hand batter. It's only the Mets' 2nd hit off Wandy Rodriguez as Beltran goes deep.
High ball hitter, Keith. Both sides of the plate. Ronnie likes the ball up. Outside corner, goes and gets it. That's impressive. It's 384 right there. That's around a 400-foot blast to get out of here.
So the Mets have hit just 10 home runs this season, and Beltran has 3 of the 10. Now Ike Davis takes a strike.
Let's go the one hand. Carlos, let's go with that one hand all the time. From the right side of the plate. He hangs on to the bat from the left side with both hands. But from the right side, let's go.
It illustrates how regrettable that unearned run at the top of the inning is now.
Ryota Igarashi gets up in the Mets bullpen after Pedro Beato pitched the top of the 7th. Davis takes strike 3 call.
Well, there you go. They wanted it down, and it's right in that mid-thigh belt level where Carlos likes it. Boy, Ike just got punched out there rather quickly.
3 pitches and he's gone. Now Angel Pagan was the only other Met hit and doubled the right center back in the 2nd. Well, game 5 ended in the bottom of the 12th inning. Wally Backman got aboard with an infield hit, and then Charlie Kerfeld tried to pick him off, and Wally got to 2nd, and then Gary Carter got the big hit.
You know, the big thing I remember about that game, Keith, is during the season, Rusty would always have his kind of luncheon before a day game for all the widows of police and firefighters, and had this big charity bash. And during the game, apparently Charlie Kerfeld in the in the Astros bullpen got himself a whole rack of ribs and was eating it in their bullpen. Ended up being fined by Hal Lanier, but every time he came to shave, all the stands would yell and scream at Charlie Kerfeld because of that one incident.
Well, I can tell you in that one instance, Gary, I hadn't swung the bat good and didn't feel very good at the plate, even though I did not have a problem with Kerfeld. I was up when Wally was when we advanced, and I knew they were going to walk me. And to be quite honest with you, I took a little sigh of relief there, because this was really a pressure-packed game, a game we had to win.
And were you surprised as Angel has to move out of the way that they walked you to pitch to Carter?
No, but Carter was struggling. Remember, Carter hardly had any hits that series. That just shows, how good Gary was, that he was able to come through in the clutch there. But Gary was struggling mightily. Oh, that's a strike.
He had Angel off balance, but Angel got the ball 3 call on the curve.
It might have been inside. Yep, it was.
So now a full count to Pagan with 1 out, and the base is empty. 3-2 with a flare over shortstop. Sanchez going out, and he reels it in for the 2nd out. So 2 away. Now this was game 5, Doc Gooden against Nolan Ryan, and they were both as advertised.
Well, this is the home run right here, and that just barely made it. We lose 1-0. Wasn't that home run? And there's the air, and they walked me intentionally, and Gary, who was struggling mightily, came through. Big hit. What a series.
Carter was just 4 for 27 in that series with 2 RBIs, but that one won a game and put the Mets up 3 games to 2 going back to Houston for game 6. 2 out and nobody on for Scott Hairston. Hairston has been up twice and struck out both times.
You know, I say that funny story about Charlie Kerfeld, and he gave up that hit, but just remember, they would not have been in that position if it had been for Charlie that whole season. He was outstanding as their 7th and 8th inning man.
Two 2-0 to Hairston with Justin Turner on deck.
It's 104 pitches for Wandy.
And nobody up in the Houston bullpen. So Brad Mills with a lot of faith in his left-hander. 3-0 to Hairston, and he takes a strike. And Scott came in with great numbers against Wandy Rodriguez. He was 6 for 11 with 2 home runs before striking out twice tonight. And now it's 3-2. That's a fact. Just 4 base runners all night against Wandy Rodriguez. And make it 5 as Hairston draws a 2-out walk. Third one given up, and the Mets will get the tying run to the plate.
You know, guys, listening to you talk about Mets Astros in '86 all night, there's been one question that's kind of come to my mind, and I wonder today, if that series was played today, how different would those games have been because of how they were managed? I mean, I wonder would Dwight Bennett have been allowed to pitch into the 10th inning? You know, I mean, would Roger McDowell have thrown 5 innings in Game 6? Would Jesse Orosco, after allowing a home run and extras to Billy Hatcher, have stayed in for a couple of more innings? I'm just curious how different that would have been by today's managing standards.
Oh, it absolutely would have been different, Kevin. I mean, in those days, you counted on your best players to go as long and as hard as you can. On a ball club, you know, there are guys that were there, and it takes 25 guys to win. But when you get in those pressure-packed games, you want your best players to be out there as long as you can. That's why Dwight was in there, and Nolan Ryan, all those players. And Jesse and Roger were our 2 best pitchers at the end of the game. And if it took 6 or 7 innings instead of 2, so be it.
Well, here's an illustration of how it's changed. Since Doc pitched those 10 innings in Game 5 in '86, there's been only one pitcher go 10 innings in a postseason game since, and that was Jack Morris in the '91 World Series. Nobody else has gone 10 innings in a postseason game. Jeff Fulcino up in the bullpen.
And in '91, things hadn't changed as far as the pitch counts. They were, you know, they were still guys who were pitching complete games.
Well, the game has changed radically in that respect over the last 25 years. Fernando Abad up in the bullpen for the Astros. 1-2 to Turner. Hit toward the hole, and that sneaks through for a base hit. Hairston stops at second, and the Mets have the tying runs on base. Chin Lung Hu will come up as a pinch hitter. Now the Mets have Daniel Murphy and Willie Harris sitting on the bench, both better hitters than Chin Lung Hu, but Terry Collins decides to go lefty-righty and brings Hu in as the pinch hitter.
I would not make this move. I would. Daniel Murphy has been saved on the bench to get big pinch hit at bats. He's shown over his career that he can do that, come off fresh and get hits. Daniel Murphy would be my hitter.
I'm inclined to agree. I wouldn't have a problem with Willie Harris. Willie Harris has had some pretty big hits off the bench on left-handers this season.
Willie's 3 for 7 against lefties so far this year. Now Murphy getting himself ready, but not for this at bat. Brett Arnsberg, the pitching coach, out to talk to Rodriguez, who's up to 114 pitches in this game. 2 out of the 7th inning, and he'll get one more batter. With both Fulcino, the right-hander, and Ahmad, the lefty, up in the bullpen. Temperatures in the upper 40s, so it takes a little bit longer perhaps to get ready, but I don't think that's why they're leaving Wandy in. I think they just have a lot of faith in him.
Not only do they have a lot of faith in him, but they don't want to replace him with a right-hander against Hu, because then you'll counter with Murphy or Harris.
What do you do when you go out there to the pitching coach? You go out there and say, hey, give me one more. Come on.
Exactly. You get us
Come on. Show me.
We'll win this game. You get this out.
That's right.
I tell you.
So who has struggled at the plate early in this season and really has struggled throughout his major league career, hitting under 200. Has to get a big hit in a big spot here in the bottom of the 7th, tying runs on base and 2 out. And who swings and misses, nothing in 1. The inning began with Carlos Beltran's home run, then after 2 out, a walk to Hairston. And Turner pulled a single through the hole into left. Reyes would be next. Mets have 3 hits now off Rodriguez. Inside to who? 1-1.
He wants that. That's inside, but he's got a good little sharp curveball working tonight. Watch this thing, the bottom drop out. That is inside.
J.R. Tolles trying to frame it for Kerwin Danley. Couldn't get the call. And the curveball swung and foul tipped, and it's 1-2.
Came right back with the curve, down and in. Ronnie, he is just painting it. And that's the key. When he's missed inside to right-handers where you can't get hurt. He can go up the ladder right here.
1-2. Curveball struck him out. 3 straight curves from Wandy Rodriguez, and Shin-Lung Hu down swinging. 7 strikeouts now for Wandy Rodriguez. Carlos Beltran gets the Mets on the board with his 3rd home run of the year, but the Mets strand 2, and we go to the 8th, 3-1 Houston. Far, let's take it to Game 6 of the 1986 National League Championship Series. Watching extra innings here, the Mets took the lead in the 14th, but Billy Hatcher's home run tied it. Then in the 16th, Ray Knight drives in a run. Mets scored 3 in that top of the 16th. And Jesse Orozco, running on fumes, gave up 2 in the bottom of the 16th before striking out Kevin Bass to end it and setting off the celebration. But, of course, none of that would have happened had it not been for the fact that you guys were able to rally for 3 in the top of the 9th against Bob Knepper, who had held you to 2 hits over the first 8 innings.
I remember how in the Dome, how long of the walk it was up to the clubhouse, and that big long stairs. And I remember Knepper was just really overmatched me first 3 at bats, and I never told the story. I went up in the 8th inning and I said, Gary, I'm going to be up in I called my brother in California. And that's back in the day when you had to dial the operator at the ballpark.
That's right.
And then you said, I'm Keith Hernandez of the Mets. I'm calling my brother in San Francisco. Here's the number. Could you call it quickly, please? And he answered the phone. And I said, Gary, I'm going to be up in the 9th inning. I just have a feeling it's going to mean something. and that's Fernando Abada. And my brother, always my good luck charm, Gary, said, "You are going to deliver. I just know it, Pete." I said, "Okay, I got to get back." So I hung up, and I ran back down, and sure enough, I got a big hit off Nepper and took that 3-run lead into the ninth and couldn't hold it.
Started with Dykstra's triple beyond the reach of Billy Hatcher in center field. Bill Hall takes up and in for Igarashi, and it's 2-1. And then Mookie got the base hit, and
Mookie hit the little jam soft line drive at the Gold Glover Bill Dorn, and he leaped too quick, and it tipped his glove.
Right.
It scored Lenny, and then I hit the double to make it 3-2, and then that's when it all unfolded and became very exciting.
And you got to third on a wild pitch, right? And then Knight hit the sacrifice fly to tie it?
Yes, I believe so.
Hall chases one out of the strike zone. It's 2-2. Brett Wallace on deck. Now the 2-2 to Hall, and he pounds that splitter into the ground.
Now, Nepper was tough at the ball that ran inside, so I was struggling. I choked up an extra inch because all I needed was a base hit. I wanted just to keep the rally going. We're in a big ballpark, hit a line drive somewhere. And he tried to get fastball inside on me, and he just didn't get it in enough.
Now, you hit the ball harder than Lenny did, but both those balls were in the air for a long time.
Well, Lenny's was. Mine was in between. It was up there, but they were playing Lenny the other way. Strike 3 is for Hall. Its woes continue.
Third time Hall's been struck out tonight. Igarashi looking good.
I mean, they were probably right playing Lenny, shading Lenny over towards left center and myself. And you know, Nepper made a pitchy fastball in. Nepper was throwing good. He threw hard, had a fastball that ran in. I just choked up, and I just got the barrel through. He threw me a curveball first pitch. Said, "Buckle me." I was 0-1. I went, "Oh goodness." And then I said, "I just have a feeling the book on me's in. I just have a feeling he's going to try to come inside here. Just be quick, be short and quick." And fortunately, I came out on top on that one.
It wasn't a wild pitch. It was a walk. They intentionally walked Carter and then walked Strawberry
to load the bases.
Dave Smith was in, and he walked both those guys to load the bases. Brett Wallace has his second hit of the night, and so the Astros have a one-out base runner against Igarashi.
Well, Darryl hit a home run around maybe 5 feet foul, third deck in the dome off of, but it would have been off Smith, yeah. And Smith was never this. I was on second base. And
no way he's going to get a strike.
That shook him up. Yeah. And then he walked Darryl and wasn't even close. And Darryl had a good eye. And that's what set up and that walk set up the sacrifice fly to tie the ball game. And we had the right guy up in Ray Knight.
You know, you always talk about the only way you get to 16 innings is unbelievable relief pitching. In that series, Jesse won 3 games. But even more importantly, we've talked about it with you fans before, Roger McDowell's effort. 5 innings, only 1 hit. But what people forget is the 6th, 7th, and 8th was pitched by Rick Aguilera, who only gave up 1 hit and no runs also, allowing that score to stay 3-0 and giving the Mets a chance.
And on the other flip side, it was the Astros relief pitching was pretty darn good too. And Roger left that 5 innings in Houston. Roger left at the season right there because Roger was ineffective in the World Series. And the 5 innings just took a toll on him.
Mike Nicky is running down to the bullpen to provide assistance as Dan Warthen heads to the mound. But what was interesting about that game is that Charlie Kerfeld, who had arguably been the Astros' best relief pitcher, never got into Game 6. They brought in Aurelio Lopez. He gave up the run in the 14th, and he was still in the 16th when you guys started to rally.
Which I thought was very surprising. It was almost like he had lost confidence. I don't know why in Charlie Kerfeld. But they, you know what, they gave us as good as they got. The Houston Astros were so outstanding. It was a series that could have went either way, and it makes, I'm probably sure those guys, as they're sitting home having a cold one watching these games go, boy, if Nepper had held that lead, they would have faced the Red Sox. But they were an outstanding team, and they gave us everything that we could handle to somehow get through.
I just felt, as you look at the bullpen there, it's Parnell and Burdack, is that Houston had Deshays, who was their fourth starter, and they only went with 3. They never used Deshays against us in relief. They had Jeff Calhoun, was their only other left-hander, who was a marginal relief pitcher. And they knew, the Houston general manager had to know. I mean, we blew the Eastern Division away. They had to know that they win their division, they're going to play us. There was no doubt about that. And why they didn't go out and get a left-hander.
Tolles hits a base hit to right. And Wallace pulls it at second, so back-to-back one-out hits off Igarashi.
Why they didn't go out there and get a journeyman, solid left-hand reliever was beyond me. And Calhoun was the one who threw the wild pitch, I believe.
Yes.
Parnell and Burdack are up. Joe Inglet has been announced as a pinch hitter, a left-hand batter. So let's see if Terry goes to Burdack in this spot. He has not been using Burdack much. And it looks like he's not coming in here either. So Igarashi will stay on to face the left-hand hitter Inglet. Igarashi trying to keep the Mets in this game, down 3-1 in the 8th.
Well, Inglet only 1 for 12 against right-handers this year. And ironically, 1 for 1 against lefties.
Probably had his best year as a Brewer. Guy who has some speed. More of a contact hitter.
Little tapper, and that'll curl foul. The other thing to remember about the Astros is that 6 years earlier they had been involved in what up until that point maybe had been the greatest league championship series ever, back when it was best of 5, played against the Phillies, in which 4 of the 5 games went extra innings, and they lost in 5 games.
Well, their postseason history, they've played 12 times in extra innings. They have an 18-inning game, a 16, of course, against the Mets, and a 14-inning game against the Chicago White Sox in the World Series.
And they've still never won a World Series.
They've had a lot of success. A lot of great players have gone through there.
That 05 series against the White Sox was their first time ever in the World Series. Just inside to Inglet, 1-2.
Go all the way back before they were the Astros, when they were Colt 45s. You're talking about Joe Morgans and Rusty Staubs and Jimmy Wins
and all the
Toy
great
Cannon.
pitchers to Don Wilson and
Yes.
I mean, they've had what, 10 no-hitters
10
in their history?
no-hitters.
Larry Durker.
1-2 to Inglet. Mets looking for their double play on the infield. And Igarashi gets him looking, threw a fastball right by him. He was looking for something else. Second strikeout for Igarashi, and they're at 2 down. So at the end of the day, when you look back at the '86 League Championship Series, where does that rank for you guys?
By far, for me, it was the best series I had ever played in. And I played little, or if any part, in that series. But just everyone and the excitement around, not only in Houston here, but also Game 6 when people were watching on the streets of New York. It was the best I've ever seen.
Now Tim Burdack will come in to face Michael Bourne. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Lincoln. Mets down 3-1 in the 8th. Roy Halladay gave up 6 runs and 10 hits in 6 2/3 tonight. Tim Burdock for the first time in 5 days to face Michael Bourne.
Well, he pitched in that first game of the doubleheader against Colorado. Pretty clean inning of work with a hit and a strikeout.
Bourne tonight 1 for 3 and a walk, and even stole a base against John Neese, something that hadn't happened in nearly 2 years. Wallace at second and Tolles at first with 2 down. Astros up 3-1 in the 8th. And Bourne pokes one into left field. That's going to fall for a hit. Tolles to third. It'll be held up there. As Dave Clark almost wrapped a rope around his waist to make sure he didn't try to score against Scott Hairston.
Got to send him. I'm sorry. Got to send him. Gee, this is a bloop off the end of the bat. Now watch. He'd have been out. He'd been dead. That's a good my mistake. I know what you're saying. You're saying you're managing because Angel Sanchez is up next. You know what? The guy was playing so shallow out there in left field. Hairston, he would have been dead to rights.
So the bases are loaded with 2 out. That'll be it for Burdock. And Bobby Parnell will come out of the bullpen to face Angel Sanchez with the bases loaded. We'll be right back. Big out for Bobby Parnell to get in the top of the 8th inning. Bases loaded, 2 out. He balks. He balked, and that brings home a run. Parnell bobbling the ball as he went into his stretch, and that's a balk, and it brings home Wallace, and it's 4-1 Houston.
Terry Collins is going to ask Kerwin Danley what happened, and he's going to get an answer he doesn't want to hear. You know, Bobby Parnell's not arguing. That tells you he knows what happened. Oh, yes, he did. Wow. Ouch.
That is just unfortunate.
It's a big ouch.
So before he even throws a pitch, Parnell allows a run to score on a balk. Now 2 in scoring position. And Sanchez takes a strike. And Bobby was coming off a really good outing on Saturday in Atlanta.
Yeah, the first game of that doubleheader. 2 innings, 3 strikeouts.
Tolles at third and Bourne at second with 2 down. And a fastball strike to Sanchez, 0-2. Sanchez has walked twice and sacrificed. He's scored a run, otherwise 0 for 1. Fernando Abad getting ready in the Houston bullpen. Wandy Rodriguez, 118 pitches over 7 innings. Now the 0-2, and Sanchez fights it off. That run is charged to Igarashi, who gave up the first 2 hits in this inning. Burdick gave up the hit to Bourne. Parnell, the third relief pitcher of the inning.
You know, I can't say it can't happen because I just saw it, but I've never seen it happen.
Well, you saw Doc Gooden strike out 16 against the Phillies and lose on a balk.
That's right. I've seen a game end in a balk. A Mike Stanton balk in Washington. But just the transfer into the glove, hitting the side of the glove and losing control of the ball is something I have not seen.
It's one of 13 ways to balk.
Line the other way, base hit. That'll bring home tolls. Bourne hits home as well. A 2-run single for Angel Sanchez, and the Astros have broken it open. They lead it 6-1. So Parnell comes in with the bases loaded, faces one batter, and all 3 have scored.
That's 11 RBI in the season for Angel Sanchez. It's the 17th game of the year, hitting in that 2-hole. That's very productive.
He hit an 0-2 pitch there. Now Hunter Pence takes a slider down for ball 1. Pence is 0 for 3 in a walk. Struck out his last time up against Pedro Beato in the 7th. Beato gave up an unearned run in the 7th. Now 3 in the 8th for Houston. 2 of them charged to Igarashi and 1 to Burdick. Good fastball by Parnell, 1-1. But the Mets bullpen woes continue.
You know, if you're going to criticize that pitching, 0-2, you cannot make that good of a pitch. It just can't happen. At some point, Bobby's going to have to learn that a guy like Sanchez should be someone that is buried in that at bat. Never sees the light of day at 0-2.
It went in the dirt. Totally can't knock it down, and that enables Sanchez to take second base. So Parnell, in quick succession, has committed a balk, given up a 2-run hit, and thrown a wild pitch.
That ball just bounced up there.
We've seen so many games go this way for the Mets this year. Close games that become unclose. Another one in the dirt. 3-1. Now Parnell behind on Hunter Pence with Carlos Lee on deck. Hit down the right field line, slicing, foul. 3-2. That's Maple. Hard maple. Parnell looking for an elusive third out. And Pence fouls off another one. Like to wish happy birthday today to our tape operator, Jeff Rubin. Happy birthday, Jeff. It is also Frank Viola's birthday. Last Met to win 20 games in a season.
Really?
Frank's now going to be the pitching coach in Brooklyn this year. 51 candles for Frankie V. Three-2. Swing and a miss, and Parnell strikes out Pence to end the inning. But Parnell allows 3 inherited runners to score. And now the Mets in a 6-1 hole with 6 outs to play with. Tomorrow's Mets-Astros matchup with exclusive interviews and insider info on Daily News Live, presented by Citi, part of the New York Sports Local, tomorrow at 5 on SNY. Changes for the Astros. Speedy Jason Bourgeois takes over in left field. And on the mound, Fernando Abad, the only lefty in that Houston bullpen.
Well, he only appeared in 22 ball games for this team last year, but had a nifty 2.84 ERA. You can see his stats so far in this young season. More hits than innings pitched, and not really a strikeout pitcher.
Spent 8 years in the Astros farm system before getting his shot last year. Top of the batting order for the Mets, who have had just a run on 3 hits tonight. The only run coming on Carlos Beltran's 7th inning home run. By the way, in Port St. Lucie tonight, Jason Bay, in his second to last rehab game, went 4 for 4 with 2 homers and 4 RBIs. Played 9 innings in left field.
Like to hear that. Good news.
Maybe they'll bring him home a day early. I mean, seems like he's ready, doesn't it?
I think he's ready. Why waste him down there?
Ronnie Polino also played in that game, went 2 for 5 with an RBI. Polino is still a week away. Reyes is 0 for 3 tonight. Popped up twice and flied out. And he takes a strike from Abad. Wandy Rodriguez threw 118 pitches over 7 innings, allowed a run on 3 hits, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts, and a home run, and leads with the lead, a chance for his first win of the year. And Abad quickly ahead on Reyes with Tolley and Wright to follow in the bottom of the 8th. Tomorrow night, R.A. Dickey makes the start in game 2 of the series against Bud Norris. And then Chris Capuano Thursday against Jay Happ. One-two from Abad, and it's bounced to third. Johnson waits on it and throws low and can't be handled by Wallace, and Reyes is safe. And we talked about the fact that the Astros infield defense has been less than stellar this year.
Well, this is routine. And he comes sidearm, and that's a lot about Reyes hustling, but you got to make that play. This is, after all, the big leagues.
That's an E5 in your scorecard.
Simply rushed that throw.
Astros have now made 18 errors, the most in the National League. There are your City probables. R.A. Dickey coming off his successful relief outing on Sunday, and Chris Capuano the same. They will go the next 2 days for the Mets. Second error, or first error in this game for the Astros. The Mets have committed 2, and Tolley takes a strike. Josh is 0 for 2 and a walk. But for the first time in this game, comes to bat with Reyes on base. And that's where he enjoyed his success in his season debut in the 2-hole on Sunday. Driving in Reyes twice with base hits. David Wright on deck as the Mets try and fight from well back in the 8th. Breaking ball strike, 1-2. Now the 1-2, and it's off the plate with the fastball. 2-2. And now a full count. So Abad unable to put away Tolley. And the Mets, who need as many base runners as they can garner here, have the leadoff man on an error and a 3-2 count to Tolley, with the heart of the batting order coming up. And Tolley takes a fastball for strike 3 call. He takes a look back at Kerwin Danley and chats as he heads away. 1 out. Let's answer our AT&T trivia question. The only Met to hit 300 in the League Championship Series in '86 against the Astros. And it was the man they call Nails on the Mets ball club.
Very good, Gary.
Lenny, of course, big postseason player. You know, and my experience in that series was the greatest series, like Ronnie said, that I ever played in. And the Game 6 in Houston was the greatest game I ever played in, head and shoulders above any other. But I think the one thing, as you look at Taylor Buchholz up in the bullpen,
the loser of that series doesn't go to the World Series. So that was the pressure of that. You know, every game was on the line. And the winner goes to the big dance. And, you know, we won 108 games. If we'd have gone home, it would have been a disappointing year.
So that feels like even more pressure than, say, a 7th game of the World Series, which you've been in twice.
Yes. Yes, and we've been on the losing end too, Ronnie and I, in '88.
Yep.
Not getting there.
Right. Jeff Fulcino up in the Houston bullpen. To the left side, Sanchez slides over in front of it, and Hall drops it. Oh, that's a terrible call.
No,
that's a terrible call. Hall never caught that ball.
Terry will never make it out of this inning.
That was just an awful call by Doug Eddings. It's turned into an automatic call for second base umpire, a bailout call, saying that he dropped it on the transfer, but Hall did not. He never caught that ball.
No. And as an infielder, you look at Terry arguing here. You got a 5-run lead. You got to make sure of 1 out. A lot of rockheads out there today.
It might be time for Terry to get himself wrong. Here's the play.
Nope. Cannot.
Not even close.
No, not. Can't do it.
The way they call this has become a joke.
That is a bad call.
The rule is that if you catch the ball and drop it while making the transfer, then it's a forced play. The runner's out. But he never caught this ball.
You're right.
Bill Hall know they have a 5-run lead.
Well, he knows he's got a mouthpiece.
Jeez.
Carlos Beltran has accounted for the only Met run in this game with a home run in the 7th inning. His 3rd of the year. They've all come as a right-hand batter. In fact, he only has 4 hits as a right-hand batter, and 3 of them have been home runs. Overpowered by Abad, and it's 1-2.
Well, here's the home run. The only Met run back in the 7th. And his 3rd home run of the season, the 3rd from the right side of the plate.
Now the 1-2, and Abad misses away. 2-2.
Baseball want to change the rule. They can change that rule right there starting tomorrow. Less than courageous way that the umpires go about making that a play they call mandatory every single time.
Well, the problem is, I think, anyway, that the rule is a good one. The problem is it's provided umpires with an out, a way of splitting the baby.
I agree. I agree.
But if you call it the right way, it's not a problem. But that obviously is not the right way. Right runs, and Beltran gets under 1 to left. And Jason Bourgeois is there to put it away and end the inning. So an error and 1 left. We go to the 9th now at Citi Field with the Astros up 6-1. the hill as the Mets continue their series against the Astros here at Citi Field. Mets-Astros coverage begins with Pepsi Max pregame live tomorrow at 6:30 only on SNY. Taylor Buchholz will pitch the 9th inning for New York.
Buchholz stats on the season. His 9th game. Low ERA. The punch outs have been something that's been interesting with Buchholz. When he has that curveball working, he will pile up those strikeouts quickly.
Only problem for Taylor has been the problem for the rest of the staff.
Yeah.
Those walks, 5 of them in 8 innings. Jason Bourgeois, who came in to play left field, will lead off in the 9th inning. Bourgeois doesn't get to swing the bat very often. Generally uses a pinch runner and a defensive replacement, and he can fly. With the combination of Bourne and Bourgeois, the Astros might have the fastest combination of 2 players in the National League. It's that stealing first thing that can be a problem.
Exactly. Very difficult.
It's always been the same way.
Buchholz, the 6th Met pitcher of the night, and the curveball sits high, 1-1. Josh Johnson with another home performance tonight. 7 innings, no runs, 2 hits. As he shut out the Pirates 6-0. Josh Johnson now 3-0 with a 1.00 ERA.
Well, in 3 of those starts, he had a no-no against the Mets through 5 or 6. And 6. Then another one through 7. It's just unhittable right now.
Two and 1 to Bourgeois with Chris Johnson and Bill Hall to follow here in the top of the 9th. Chases one out of the strike zone. It's 2-2. Looks like the Orioles are going to snap their 8-game losing streak. They're up 11-0 on the Twins going to the 9th. Popped up. Tolle and Davis converging, and Davis can't make the catch. Looked like he was hearing footsteps with Josh approaching and sliding, and couldn't catch it.
Well, a little distraction there, and someone's got to take charge. Tolle trying to get out of the way. It's clearly the first baseman's ball. You've got to call for that. And I think he was totally distracted by Tolle. He's not calling it. See, there you go.
You know, if you totally get in tune, Keith, pitcher can be over there and calling Ike, 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 which really stops the play and makes it easy.
Of course, remember Bob Boone and Pete Rose.
They had a nice juggling act.
Right. Boone dropped it and Rose caught it.
Pete got everywhere, didn't he? He was something. He would find that ball.
So another chance for Bourgeois. No error on the play. And he smacks one in the air to left, circling in his Hairston. And he catches this one with 2 hands. 1 out. Jeff Fulcino up in the Astros bullpen. UConn alert.
That's right. He was there with bullpen coach Jamie Quirk, one of my good buddies. It looks really cold out there in that bullpen.
Hey, did you watch any of the Buffalo game that was on TV today?
I did not. It was on at noon, right?
Yep.
There's Q.
Speaking of cold, it was probably about 35 degrees in Buffalo. The wind was howling. Watched Henry Mejia struggle in the first inning. I think he walked 4 in that first inning, gave up a couple of runs, but then he was impeccable after that.
That's good to hear.
He is, well, it's 3 starts now.
Yes. He's pitched well.
You know, we read that there was conversation about the Mets bringing up Mejia to make that spot start on Sunday. Dylan G getting the call instead. But Henry's numbers so far have been outstanding. There he is today, going to the mound with short sleeves on a cold day in Buffalo.
Look at the people in the stands.
It's like Nanook.
It's like a Winter Olympics.
Taking care of the Rochester Red Wings today. One and 1 to Johnson, who's 0 for 4 on the day. And he pops one up on the infield. Nobody will mess with Ike Davis this time. And there are 2 out. So 2 up and 2 set aside. Now Bill Hall comes to the plate. Hall 1 for 4. Had an infield hit in the 6th. Later was thrown out at the plate, trying to score from second on a base hit. His other 3 at bats he has struck out. Looking ahead to the bottom of the 9th, the Mets will have Ike Davis, Angel Pagan, and Scott Hairston as they try and rally in their final turn. And the breaking ball misses for ball 1. Coming up tonight on Geico Sports Night, Knicks Celtics play game 2. Jets and Giants find out who they are going to play if there's going to be a season. And Rangers Caps get ready for game 4. All tonight on Geico Sports Night, starting at 10:30 right here on SNY. In the air to center field, Pagan going over. Got plenty of room. And the side retired. So 3 up and 3 down for Taylor Buchholz in the 9th. Now the Mets with their last chance, down by 5. Come on to pitch for the Astros.
Well, he's been great so far. 8 2/3 innings, 10 strikeouts. He's one of your bigger guys that you'll see out there in that mound.
6'5", 284 the listing, so he's up there with the Jonathan Broxtons of the league.
Tight end, defensive end.
Ike Davis, Angel Pagan, and Scott Hairston for the Mets, who've managed just 3 hits tonight. Pagan doubled in the 2nd, Beltran homered, and Turner singled in the 7th. But that's been it. That's had one big chance in this game. After Beltran homered in the 7th, they got 2 out and 2 on with the pitcher spot coming up. And with the lefty Wandy Rodriguez on the mound, Terry Collins opted for Chin Lung Hu over Daniel Murphy or Willie Harris, going strictly with percentages, but Hu struck out. And the Astros then added 3 in the 8th to break the game open. Davis tonight 0 for 2 and a walk. And he slaps one right over the bag. That's a base hit for Ike Davis. Ballboy gets the chair out of the way, and Ike heads to second base, where he's in standing with a leadoff double. So Ike has his 5th double of the year. Angel Pagan coming up. Let's look at the Home Depot doing more on defense. This is Angel's play.
And this is the base hit off of Wandy Rodriguez. It hit the mound, the backside of the mound, and scooted home. And a beautiful tag by Josh Tolley here. Had to go get the ball up the line And that was a fine play.
Just got Bill Hall on the uniform shirt to get John Neese out of a jam. So here's Pagan, who's 1 for 3 on the day. Double to right center back in the second. Batting left-handed for the first time today, and first pitch swinging. Fouls one off the left side. Johnson over, but runs out of room. Willie Harris now out on deck to bat for Scott Hairston.
Who is throwing the shutout for Kansas City, Garrett? In 7.
I'll find out for you.
That's a, believe it or not, how about those two teams in that AL Central on top of the heap? Or
Yep.
Cleveland's on top by a game, beating Kansas City last night.
Beat him in 10 innings. And Pagan now in a 2-strike hole. That's Bruce Chenner, old friend, who is off to a great start. By the way, Jeff Francoeur, another hit, another RBI tonight. Frenchie's hitting about 325.
Yes, it's hot.
Jake Picker's favorite player.
Now Fulcino ahead on Pagano at 2. With Davis at second and nobody out. And Pagan stays alive. The 0-2 from Fulcino, and Pagan wastes another one. Foul balls for everybody. So Fulcino will do it again. And Pagan fouls another one. It's 5 pitches, 5 strikes, 5 foul balls. Pagan 0 for 3 in his career against Fulcino. Popped up. And the shortstop Sanchez calls, and that's the first out here in the last of the night. So Pagan retired, and now Willie Harris will bat for Scott Hairston. Harris had a good series in Atlanta, went 3 for 10 in the 3 games. He's been playing most of the left field. Probably will be out there tomorrow against the right-hander Bud Norris. Unless the Mets decide that 4 for 4 with 2 home runs tonight was enough for Jason Bay to be ready to go tomorrow. The plan was for him to play tonight and tomorrow and join the Mets on Thursday. It's hard to prove you're ready, though, better than
That's right.
4 for 4 with 2 home runs.
I know Terry Collins, if he had a say in it, he would say, yeah, you know what? I'd love to pen him in the lineup tomorrow.
Harris lifts one down the left field side, foul. Well, when Bay comes back, you anticipate him hitting 6th behind Davis or 5th in front of Davis?
That's a you could split back and forth Davis and Bay depending on lefty righty. You can play it that way because you got the switch hitter and Belcher.
Because you're probably going to move Pagan back to the 2 hole and then totally down to 7 or 8.
No, totally. I think it'll be 7.
And then the second baseman will hit 8th. Although if Murphy plays, you're probably not going to hit him 8th.
Right? No, you won't.
Really lengthened that lineup, though, with the addition of one player. It's amazing.
Makes a huge difference.
You've got to try Pagan and see if he's going to get comfortable in that second hole. But if Murphy's going to play and Pagan continues to struggle, Murphy's a candidate to hit second.
And you hit Murphy, so Pagan seventh,
Yep.
which is not bad either. Except it kind of takes away his running game if you hit him seventh.
I understand, but you've got to give Pagan a shot in the 2 hole for a bit and see if he can. That's where he feels most comfortable. If he can get out of this slump.
2-2 now to Harris with Davis at second and 1 out. And it's going to be interesting to see how Terry uses Turner and Murphy now. Those are the 2 second basemen of the moment. Will it be a strict platoon where Murphy gets more of the playing time?
You know, he was asked that today in his pregame meeting, and he said to answer it right now, I'd say it would be a platoon-like situation.
But those plans can change quickly.
Yeah.
Harris lines one the other way. Bourgeois with the good speed gets over there to grab it, then drops the ball, but they say that he dropped it taking it out of the glove, so it is an out. What is it with these Astros?
I'm not onto the ball. I'm not going to argue this one, though.
No, that's a good call.
That's a catch. I mean, dude, come on, guys. They got coffee up in that clubhouse.
They had a day off yesterday. So the Mets are down to their final out. Justin Turner just recalled today. 1 for 3. Snuck a single through the left side in the 7th inning. And bats here with 2 out of the last of the 9th. If he can keep it going, then Murphy would come up as a pinch hitter for the pitcher. Davis at second and 2 down. And it's hit right to the shortstop, Sanchez. He takes care of Turner, and the ball game is over. The Astros come to New York and win the opener of this 3-game series behind 7 strong innings from Wandy Rodriguez as the Mets lose for the 8th time in their last 9 games.
Well, 6 more bases on balls for Mets pitching. That's not going to make it. And their late inning woes continue. 5th inning on, they're being outscored 55-32.
Well, they only mustered on the offensive side 4 hits, Gare, so they continue to struggle offensively as well. They made 2 more errors tonight, so not a good 2 teams coming in here, both with the 5-11 records, and Houston comes out on top.
So the Mets come home and drop the opener of their homestand. John Neese pitched better, allowed just 2 runs over 6 innings, but that was enough to drop him. 6-1, Houston wins it. Back in a moment.